Hi friends, it's pretty late here, but I just got done recording the Daniel Pekic podcast. I apologize if the quality isn't great at various points. I used my AirPods as my microphone in the first half of the podcast, so I sound a little bit like this. Nevertheless, I think we had a friendly, productive conversation, and I hope you find it entertaining and illuminating. Without further ado, let's roll the footage. I've got the privilege of being joined by the formidable Daniel Pekic of the Daniel Pekic podcast. Daniel, thank you for joining me.
Welcome, man. Glad to be here.
Hey, you're best known, I would say, for interviewing great guests such as, you have Broderick Chavez on often. You've interviewed Charlie Jung. I hope I'm not butchering his name there. You've interviewed my friend Lyle McDonald, and many have remarked that you're a more thoughtful and interesting person than your appearance might let on. I would definitely agree with that.
Thanks, man.
Well, yeah, but we'll get to your appearance, because that is a funny topic and a half, isn't it? But anyway, what brings us together today is okay, let's go back. So a couple months ago, like back in November, I released this video collaboration with Lyle McDonald critiquing Mike Israetel's fitness advice. And Daniel responded with 2 videos with a heavy duty critique. So I decided to respond to Daniel in turn with a trenchant video of my own. And then Daniel did something courageous and imaginative, which was he sent me some direct messages, basically displaying exactly the straight talking, candid person that I credited him as. And we communicated constructively. And Daniel came up with the great idea that we should do a podcast together, just basically to clear the air. So that's where we're at now. I don't really want to direct this conversation as such. I just, I really just want you to take it from here, Daniel, and, we can see how we go. I want to thank you again for joining me, and I do reiterate that it is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's not often that I am getting interviewed, so it's always a little bit nervous. It's easy being the interviewer because the opinions are almost not your own. You're just asking the questions. But I figured this is good exercise. This is good practice. And as I was saying to you earlier, I sent the hit piece to a friend. And my friend was like, why do you care, bro? Just get on with it. These are anonymous people commenting, probably don't even care. They're just commenting to troll. But then I thought to myself, why do I care? And the truth is, when you have a podcast and when you put yourself out there on social media, everyone cares at least a little bit, right? And it's not that you take every comment to heart. In fact, most of the comments I laughed at. You know what I mean? A lot of them I've heard before. And a lot of them, people are just, they're doom scrolling. They're on YouTube. They probably didn't even watch the entire video. And they just want to say something.
Hey, I can confirm that with the watch time. It's only, well, anyway, yeah, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But by hit piece, you're referring to my video, just for clarification. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Please keep going.
So if someone does make a hit piece about you, it's never nice, right? You never want negative comments about yourself, but you do have to take into consideration even the people commenting the negative stuff. They don't always mean it in a super serious manner. And that takes me back to my video that I did on your response. Truth is, I didn't think anyone would watch it to start off with because I don't have a large following. I had maybe 300 odd views on those 2 videos, and I removed them long before you made the hit piece. So obviously at the time I thought, I don't really like those videos. I regret them. I'll take them down. It wasn't my finest moment, so I'm not going to back up everything that I said in the video, but we'll get to a couple things. But,
yeah, sure.
Lost my train of thought there. But look, when someone makes these hit pieces about you, and you do regret some of the things you said, I'll be the first one to say, just say, hey, mate, what I said was a stupid thing, and practice that humility. It's a good thing, and I'm not sure why a lot of influencers hold on to that. So obviously Mike Israetel, he's mentioned everywhere. I haven't watched all of his content. So if I'm commenting unfairly to him, I'm sorry. You can't watch it all. The guy posts hundreds, thousands of hours. No one can, not even yourself, right? But the tan excuse has become a meme, right? So he blamed his stage presence on the tan, and Greg Touche went to town on it. Now, if I was Dr. Mike Israetel, the first thing I'd say after reflection is I'd laugh at the video, mind you, because Greg Touche, the edits and everything, it's funny. And I'd say, yeah, the tan excuse was stupid. I was just too fat. I needed to diet longer. And that'd be the end of it.
Yeah. I'm glad that you raised this, because you're not the first person whose ideas and arguments I've critiqued in the fitness space. Almost every single time, my targets handle it really, really well. And you would be an example. When I say you handle it well, I mean with thoughtfulness, humility, grace. Jeff Nippard did the same. He hired me to review his programs after I critiqued them. Izzy Narvaez, whom you may or may not know, I mean, he responded like a gentleman. You're all gentlemen, all three of you guys, because you all reached out to me politely and tried to come to some kind of resolution. The only exception is Mike Israetel, who ignores or personally insults critics. He doubles down, triples down on his nonsense, seemingly doesn't admit fault. I just don't understand that psychology. I feel that he should be open to doing what you're doing, which is, hey, mea culpa. Like, I screwed up a few things. Let's talk about it. I'm sure you'd agree, right? Like, I don't know why this is so hard for him, but anyway. You've talked about practicing humility in some of the recent correspondences we've had. I don't know if that's something you'd like to talk about. I understand it is hard to be interviewed. I did my first ever podcast interview with a bloke named Sean Stone it wasn't last night. It was the night before last night. And you're spot on about how weird it is. Like I'm the one who's normally asking the questions. So anyway.
It's hard, man. You get your heart rate elevates. If you're a good public speaker, I guess it doesn't matter, But for me, being interviewed, it's a very different experience. But let's touch on that, practicing humility.
Yeah.
If your goal in life is to do better for yourself and for the people around you, practicing humility can only help. I can't see any negative to it. Now, if your goal in life is to look superior to other people, practicing humility can make you look weak in certain instances. Now, I've sent you videos. I'm not sure if we should show them, but me looking weak, I'm worried about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
It's when you're comfortable with yourself, when you're happy with your life, it's easy to practice humility. I'll be honest with you. If I wasn't having a good time in life and I saw those comments, that probably would affect me, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy with where you're going and all these negative comments come through, that reinforces your lack of confidence, right? Yeah. But we'll take, for example, the lip filler. I didn't expect this. The lip filler comments. Number one, guys, sorry to break it to you. I got no lip filler. All right.
No, they're just these naturally, enviably plump lips.
Yeah, and with that comment, I thought that's a compliment to me, because that is something that women over time had complimented as a thing that they liked.
Yeah.
But the comments, I'm presuming they were all males that were trying to get at me with that. And I think, well, if I was someone not having a successful time with women, that might affect me, and you might think, well, maybe I should change that, even, if you will. So I guess it is easier for me because I'm happy. You know what I mean? I guess I can safely say,
family, right? You're thriving.
Beautiful daughter, beautiful family, everything's good.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That would be the first thing. It's easy to practice humility when you're happy with where you're going. Now, if you're not happy with where you're going, it's still a good idea, because it'll just eat you. It'll just eat you to the point And I don't know Dr. Mike Israetel, but using him as an excuse here on this channel, I think is relevant because a lot of people have come here for that, right? So I don't want to sound like we keep throwing out his name. It's just he's a relevant example in this conversation because people know who he is that are listening, right? I haven't seen all of his content, like I said, but I did watch some of it. I mean, it's all over the algorithm. The guy had done well to just be everywhere, right? There are, you know, certain instances where he does come across as insecure. We're all human, so it's not like it's this big bad monster sending missiles to people's homes.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It's not the way that I want to go out, put it that way. Not for me.
Yeah, absolutely not. What could we talk about next? I mean,
the video. Let's talk about the video, I think.
Please, yeah.
Okay, so let's start with nerds, which is the title, at least of the second video, right? So
yeah,
one, like I said, I didn't expect people to watch it outside of my tiny little following, right? But let's say you do watch it. Let's presume I was this famous person like Mike Israetel, and I was making a video about nerds, and I was to do it again. The first thing I do is define what I meant by nerds, because I can see from the comments people have got it misconstrued. Now, in that video that I made, I actually put a post from Derek, I think it was Erickson. Brilliant post, by the way. And he talks about nerds and it not being a productive thing for society. But the definition that he used of nerds is very different to what people are thinking. So the first thing I can say is, I bet if the commenters knew the definition I was talking about, a lot of them would have agreed. That's the first thing.
How would you define nerds if you could go back and redo it?
Okay, if I could redefine nerds, it would be exactly like that post from Devin Erickson. And it's basically nerds are out there arguing to be right rather than to get the right outcome. So in his post, he gave an example that there was this nerd that argued that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, because you could argue the point if you're a math nerd. But for the content, so for the purpose of communicating 2 + 2 is 4 within an analogy, you don't need to do that, because the normie understands what 2 + 2 equals 4. It just means it's easy, it's common sense. But a nerd would be like, well, actually, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 in this quantum realm. And that's all I meant.
Yeah, right.
In the fitness industry. Now, kind of using that as an example with hypertrophy research, Mike Van Wyck, which I know has received a lot of criticism, he put this post, and I actually really enjoyed it. He said, studying things people already know the answer to, or studying things us bodybuilders already know the answer to. So let's say a study comes out and it sounds ridiculous. It's 40 sets on shoulders, and they're all to fail. Let's presume there is one. Well, common sense will tell you that you don't even need to read that study, because if you're a bodybuilder, you already know. You already know it's ridiculous. Like, you can't do 40 sets to failure. So the conversation, the debate, the critique, it ends there. It's not even productive to argue the point. But what nerds will do, they'll grab this Mike Israetel snippet, they'll create a post about it, and it's like, bro, it's not important to society. Like, even though you're right, I don't believe it's important to argue the point. It's common sense. You just get rid of it, get on with your day. Do your 12 sets or 15 sets, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess there are two things I would comment on there, because I think you basically raised 2 points. I mean, as regards, I think you are undoubtedly right about the whole wanting to be right rather than wanting to help others thing. That does undoubtedly apply to a good number of nerds. But I also think, you know, that there is a risk there of painting with a broad brush, because, you know, I think nerds do things for a variety of reasons. You know, when I was writing my honors thesis, I asked my supervisor why academic philosophers do what they do. And her reply was basically, well, there is no one answer, which is, I know, typical of but she goes, you know, some philosophers want to be right. Some think their work has practical use. Others are having fun. Others treat philosophy as a form of art. Maybe it's some combination for some. But I think the same applies to nerds and more broadly. You know, like they're not a collective. There are many different types of nerds, you know, just as there are many different types of jocks, and they do things for different reasons. And then as regards the volume, I mean, I think you are like a lot of like people who are deeply immersed in the sort of bodybuilding world, like folks like you, you'll read a study. Let's just suppose there's a study that goes 40 sets to failure, do them all. This is going to blow up your shoulders. And you go, nah, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't feel that everyone is in that position of being able to evaluate that research from a position of experience and authority like you know you have been entrenched in the lifting world, the bodybuilding world for a while, and so you have a kind of a system of saying this is not right, this is. But someone who's completely new to it, I think it can be beneficial for them to have a helping hand, as it were, sort of guide them and say, no, that's bullshit right there, that 40 set thing, oh, forget it, you know. And this guy who's telling you do that thing should be criticized. That's my personal view.
No, you raised some good middle ground there. I guess what I'd maybe not counter to that is that I don't think we need an academic paper to figure it out. So, for example, if someone that's new to training goes to the gym, that you'll figure it out so quickly. I mean, you'll figure it out really quick. You can't do 40 sets to failure. And you know what? Auto regulation. If you do 40 sets to failure, you could perform them. It's just the next 30 after set 10 will probably suck. But you know what? I actually still know big dudes who'll do that. They'll just go to the gym, annihilate. I mean, they have the Jay Cutler mentality, minimum 20 sets, some 30 sets, and they're massive. Do they need that? I'm not sure, but their mentality is, oh, well, why leave any stone unturned? It's better to do too much than do too little. And they train so hard and so much that the only thing that forces them to do less is they get sick.
Yeah.
And then they take a break for a few days and they go back to doing it. The human body is capable of so much more than the bodybuilding world thinks. Now, I'm more entrenched in a different sport, as you know. And if you look at CrossFit, I mean, what these guys are capable of doing, it blows your mind, right?
Yeah.
So
just to be clear, CrossFit is not that sport that you're entrenched in. Just so the listeners know.
It's not.
You do. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Sure. Yeah. I mean, the CrossFit training is crazy. I mean, holy moly, there was a death at the CrossFit Games last year. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's intense.
Happening.
They have just such an incredible pain threshold, you know. I guess they don't notice when they're, I don't know. Sorry to interrupt, Dan. You please keep going. I keep doing this.
Yeah, so we'll elaborate one more point on hypertrophy research. Most of it's just not necessary. So before a lot of this research came out, people were already muscular. So that's the first thing. Right, it is very different to the research involved with, let's say, how to repair a broken leg. Like I do believe there are different levels of importance there because the normie can figure this out intuitively with enough practice. And even if the normie needs extra guidance, there's probably so many people around you at the gym that can give you a hand. So let's take the people that appear like me, the meatheads. If I go to my local gym today, which I will, there's 10, 15 of us, guys much more muscular than myself, even guys much more simple than myself. But I guarantee you, if I said, hey, man, can you teach me to train and can you teach this beginner how to train? They'll figure it out just fine. Like, yeah, I know that it sounds like a very kind of simple way of looking at it, but it's just not that complicated. Now, on to people that say, well, that's not necessarily fair. There were nuances. I agree. I agree. But to the extent that we're arguing it now, there are people that are literally dedicating hours, weeks, decades on this, I think there are more productive things that we could do as a society. Now, that's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to say that openly. I really don't think it's that important. I don't think we need any more hypertrophy research. I'm sorry. I don't think we need any more.
I think you are spot on to the extent that as far as just how much the research helps the folks in the trenches, I mean, the utility isn't really there. I mean, you could just go and observe what the successful natural bodybuilders are doing and then just collect their practices and go, this is what I should be doing. And then you start there and then you go, oh, that doesn't work so well for me. That, and you figure it out like that. I mean, that is a legitimate approach. And certainly that would, I mean, at least the way the research is presented by some people in the industry, I think just going by anecdote can frankly get the folks at home further. You know what I mean?
I agree. If I needed research to know whether I needed to drink this bottle of water or not to feel good, is it productive? Obviously not. You know intuitively you need to drink because you're thirsty. Now, bodybuilding and hypertrophy research is not that simple, but on the spectrum of what we should be studying and spending a lot of time, resources, and energy on, I don't think hypertrophy research or muscle hypertrophy research rates all the way over here on the important spectrum. So I think we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, sure. You're sort of a utilitarian then about like scientific research. You reckon, prioritize the stuff that, adds the most value to the most people, basically. And that is not exercise science. Basically, factually, it would be sort of medical research or advancements in all different kinds of technology.
Yeah, and I guess if it wasn't that way, a lot of the stupid meatheads like us wouldn't have been able to build a large amount of muscle, right?
Spot on. Yeah. Many eminent. Yeah, please. What's on your mind?
Sorry, I keep cutting you off because I think there is a slight delay with our connection. I think.
So do you mind revealing your location? I mean, not like precisely, but I'm in Melbourne, Australia. So you are Australian, Daniel, but you're not currently in Australia, as I understand.
I'm Australian and Croatian, and I'm currently in Vienna, Austria.
Right. Yeah. I am. My family came from Vienna, so on my dad's side. So I'm like half Greek, quarter Austrian, quarter Anglo. That's sort of my makeup. Are you 100% Croatian?
No, I'm not. I'm Italian, Croatian, and also
that's right,
my non is from England.
Right. Got it. Awesome. Yeah. You have some very good muscle building genetics, I would say.
I'd never put the photo of my older brother or some of my uncles, but they have much more superior genetics than myself, and they've never touched gear in their life. So I can tell you, in my personal circle, within my genetic tree, if you will, there are people that they have physiques that you just be like, nah, that's not achievable without any hormone use. Now, for me, I can't say that because I have a past history of anabolics. But let me tell you, when I used them, which is going up to 15 years ago, the doses that were considerable, I was a lot bigger than I was now. We'll say that much. A lot bigger.
It's such a shame that you don't have the pictures because, you sent me a few, and even in your current state, you're a monster, and you tell me that's from just a replacement dose, and you have the blood work to back it up,
Well, I don't consider myself a monster. Here's the thing. I don't consider my physique commendable, large. I consider it very achievable for the majority of people who have decent genetics and they've been training for as long as I have. Maybe I appear on screen larger than I am, but I mean, I live in that world, right? In that PED bodybuilding world. And I mean, to me, there are just so many great physiques. Now, where I was living prior to this and also my place of business, by the way, everyone, face tattoos, I'm a tattoo shop owner. So I mean,
I
that
do want to.
kind
I
of
do want to talk about the face tattoos as well, because there
we
were so
will. We'll
many
get to
comments about the damn face. Yeah, but sorry, we'll get to that later. We'll get to the face tattoos later.
we'll get to that. In Bali, Indonesia, it's not the place you go as a man to flex your physique. I mean, you're going to get outdone every kilometer. There are so many good physiques in Bali, in this small little island, that a physique like mine is not even worth a mention at the gym. Perhaps my calves, I mean, you could show that, but my calves are genetic and I don't really train them. They've always been that way. I know a lot of people that have calves tend to also tell me the same story. They don't train them. They're not sure how. It's just one of those muscles, I think.
Yeah, you've got calves. You've got cows, as a matter of fact. They ain't no calves.
Yeah, that's the one body part that I'll say, yeah, my calves are good.
Yeah.
That's it, though.
I think you're underselling yourself a little bit. I think you're kind of using the yardstick of enhanced competitive bodybuilding to measure your physique. But I don't
Even
know.
guys that are natural, though, even guys that are natural, to me, a good physique, it needs to also be a lean physique. And because I'm not lean, I don't feel that in the world of physique enhancement, you deserve the respect. Like getting lean, it's easy to be bulky and soft. When I do diet, I do lose a lot of muscle mass. So a lot of people will think, oh man, if you just lean down, you'd look great. But the truth is, without the hormones, this is where anabolics come in super handy. Not necessarily when you're getting big. Yeah, you need some, but most bodybuilders use more when they're dieting because holding the muscle becomes increasingly difficult the leaner you get, and especially when you have a large amount of muscle mass. So when I do diet, I actually look very regular. I'm 100, I think I was 101 kilos today. But when I'm lean, I'm all of 85 kilos. And I'm not talking about stage lean either, just beach lean, 85 kilos. When you drop the carbs, because I have about 1,000 grams of carbs a day, I have a very high calorie intake.
Whoa.
Carbs, when you lose body fat and then you lose a bit of muscle, me 85 beach lean, it's pretty much at the end of what you can get naturally. It's not much difference.
With good genetics, though. I mean, very good, I would say, because we're about the same height, right? I think I'm 178. You're, as I recall, 178 to 180 thereabouts. Yeah. So I mean, I think 85 in shape is insane at this height.
Yeah, I could say that my genetics are better than average, definitely. Better than average for sure.
Yeah.
Genetics are so important. It's actually sad. When I say this, it's obviously opinion-based because as soon as you see someone with a good physique, if you just say genetics, and that kind of discredits their hard work or the gear, etc. But I live in that world, as you know. I've interviewed a lot of quote-unquote experts, definitely people that have thousands of anecdotes, and they'll all tell me that there are just guys that don't have to do much to get a good physique. I'm sorry. I mean, I know it sounds like such a cop-out, but it's true.
Yeah, it is true. The
I know
inter-individual.
that, yeah. I know that personally because I have that one good body part. And it's the body part that everyone comes up to me at the gym, asks me for carb training advice, and I'll just tell them, look, I don't know because I'm pretty much born with them. And I can walk on a treadmill and they'll probably grow. Now, consider people like Ronnie Coleman, where all of his muscles are like that. I mean, they just look at a weight or look at a bottle of testosterone and they grow.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's just the nature of the world. We all have our own different gifts and whatnot.
That's right. And one of them that I don't have, I looked in the comments, people teasing me about my lisp. And I thought to myself, when you start a podcast and you have a speech impediment, trust me, it's at the forefront of your mind. Okay? Because you're starting a thing where your voice is what people are consuming. And if every 3 seconds they can hear your lisp, trust me, be prepared to be teased. All right. Now, if
That
it got
sucks.
me, but you know, it doesn't, because everyone's got something. I saw Lex Friedman get criticized yesterday about one of his podcasts. Now, I consider Lex one of the most neutral, fantastic podcasters, and they even found something to attack him about. So trust me, guys, if you're considering starting a podcast or putting your opinions out there, it doesn't matter what you post. I guarantee you it'll offend at least one person, and you're going to get criticism. It doesn't matter what you post. Trust me. They'll find
Ain't that
a
the
way.
truth? Yeah. You need a bit of a thick skin for social media.
You do, and if you don't, you'll get one. You'll get one.
Yeah.
A lot of these comments, I consider them superficial or trivial. Let's say someone said something about my daughter. That's gonna hurt, you know, and that's gonna
That
get me
crosses
angry.
a line, yeah.
Crosses a line. It's also why I don't post photos of my physique or my family online, because I don't want them to be up for criticism. Now, when you have a daughter, you are posting photos of her without her permission. When she gets older one day, if she sees a podcast about her, oh, look at that ugly little baby, or look at that ugly little girl, how's that going to impact their mental health? So for me, quite important to keep my personal life rather private.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
But, you know, people can ridicule me all day long. Like I said prior to that, I'm living a good life, and people are just going to do it. So I guess my advice to someone that is considering doing it, or the younger generation, because I'm getting on now with my age. I'm 35 this year, and my AAS use, my history, that's going back nearly 15 years now. Okay, so I'm mindful of what I'm about to say to the younger generation. So we will talk about some of those opinions on gear soon, but I definitely do care. I absolutely care, and I absolutely care about helping people, and I'm absolutely remorseful about some of the things I said in the video, or at least the language that I chose in that video. And that brings me to the segue. I can't believe I'm actually even talking about this, but the use of the word gay. Put it this way, guys. I don't know if anyone listening is a fan of South Park and Eric Cartman, but growing up, I watched South Park on the daily, and the word gay is used like nonstop by Cartman, right? And just that kind of era, it was used in a way that had nothing to do with same-sex relationships. But then we got to this point, this virtue signaling point, where if you were a homosexual, now you got to own that word. You just took it from us. Even though we didn't mean to offend you, you just took it from us. And then every time now that we used it, it was offending people. Now, I say two things about that. Number one, I won't say it again publicly. Why? Because there's just no benefit. There are other words that I can use, and it leaves less to criticize. And if it does offend some people, then I'm not going to. Am I still going to use it in my private conversations with friends? Absolutely. It's part of my lingo. I know it's not offensive. No one's taking it seriously. All right. And I think there's definitely a time and place for words within your small friendship group, maybe it's your Telegram group, and then there's a time and place for how you speak publicly. I don't think it's commendable to use these words out in public and say, oh, who cares? You know, I'll say what I want. It's distasteful. It's distasteful, and it's not something that I'm going to do again. And I have had heaps of friends tell me, use the word in any way that you want publicly. It's actually gay if you even apologize for it. So I'm going to be up for criticism in my friendship group for even saying this. But I don't care, because I have my opinions. I've reflected on it, and I'm not going to use it again, because, again, it's just not productive. I'm always thinking with life, because I have this kind of business mindset. When you say something, what's the benefit? Because my ego and saying, oh, fuck it, I'll say what I want, it to me is not productive.
Yeah. Yes. But I mean, for what it counts, I never thought you had a homophobic bone in your body. But you know, I accept what you're saying here. I'm
Yeah,
not here to be the language police or, you know, but I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate what you just said there.
Sure. Even some of our staff are gay. So if they saw that video, or one in particular, I'm not sure they will in time, maybe that causes an issue at work. And then I thought to myself, okay, now that's a negative. That's a net negative for me. So now, despite something that I didn't really have the intent to offend anyone, now it's causing issues at work. And guess what? You have issues at work. You have issues with your income. You have issues with your income. Now you have issues feeding your baby. And then it really does become a net negative in your life, being cancelled, if you will.
Yeah, totally. My motive was never to cancel you either.
Thanks, bro. You did pretty well though, because you know I have a very small following on YouTube, and heaps of people went on my videos, even videos that I really think are needed for the community in harm reduction, and they were just writing, "This is gay. Oh, that's gay, 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 gay," and then down liking it. And when you down like it, obviously YouTube shows it to people less. But I figured, wow, if I was Mike Van Wyck, which we're going to talk about, if I was him and my social presence was my income, which I think it is, I think it's at least part of his income. I don't know him that well. Then it's gonna piss you off. And on that conversation, because I did raise the Mike Van Wyck and Jeff Nippard scenario, and I want to clarify to everyone what I meant by that. He may have made an error. I don't know, because what I said in the video, obviously you did edit it down, right? What I meant to say, at least, is that you don't know the disagreement exactly that Jeff and Mike had. You just believe Jeff if you like Jeff, you believe Mike if you like Mike, but you don't know exactly the conversations that they had. So it's two men going at it. Now, would I have done that? Would I have pushed someone out the gym, especially on CCTV, even if I was pissed off at them? No, I would not. But there's worse things he could have done. I'm going to say that publicly, guys, you're acting like it's this David and Goliath gladiator battle with a sword. Guys, it's not that big of a deal. He pushed the guy. He's completely fine. And I'm not condoning violence or even condoning that act. But if someone came up to me in my personal space at the gym and there was a legitimate disagreement that we had, especially knowing where I grew up there in Sydney, or spent a lot of my time in Sydney, I'd have done the same thing. You get out of my personal space. So there's about a 2 meter radius. You can say what you want from over there, but as soon as you start coming closer, I'm pushing you away. Now, with Jeff Nippard, I think it's a little bit slimy because he's coming up to Mike with cameras on. It's really provoking. It's really provoking. And you know what? It doesn't matter what my opinion is. My opinion is basically, I don't know, he pushed him. It's not that big of a deal. You shouldn't have made that big of a deal about it. I mean, honestly, I think when you see Jeff Nippard doing selfies, what did he get, like a scan on himself for getting pushed? Like, bro, you're okay. Trust me, you're okay. You don't need to go to the doctors for that. At least by the looks of it, he didn't. And I think he's okay, right? Like, he's got no permanent damage, right? If he does, forgive me, Mike's a very strong lad. So I would just leave
physical.
it at that.
We don't know about psychological.
Oh, that's a tough topic for me because, you know, I come from me and you are obviously very different, bro. But if someone is being affected psychologically from a push, oh, man, it's going to be hard for me to comment here without rustling some feathers, because that is an area where I'm going to say, look, I think that's a little soft. But you'll be okay, bro. You'll be okay. Trust me. It's a push. Now, maybe Jeff Nippard has never had a good whooping in his life, but I have. I've had a few of them. And there's a difference between the first push and getting your head stomped in. A big difference.
Right. Daniel, you seem to say two things that contradict each other. At once, that we don't know the situation between Mike Van Wyck and Jeff Nippard, but also that Jeff was the clear aggressor.
Oh, I don't know if he was the aggressor, but he started walking towards him. So for me, if it was me, I don't like when people get into my personal space. Even if the person, let's say it's me or Mike, are acting unjustly, guys, it's not a good idea to walk up to other dudes in their personal space. It doesn't matter whether you think it's justified or not. You can still get hit. Like, I know dudes, plenty of dudes, whether it's right or wrong, if you get inside a guy's personal space, especially if maybe he's really not giving you the idea that you should, it's dangerous. So just don't do it. Like, it's just easier not to do it.
Now, I don't know if you've seen the CCTV footage, but there's Jeff Nippard doing his, cable curls while the cameraman films him. And Mike Van Wyck walks over to Jeff rather close, and we don't know precisely what he said. But would you say that what Mike Van Wyck did there to Jeff is deserving of that same invasion of personal space treatment you described?
Yes, but the difference is Mike was obviously okay with Jeff Nippard's response. So if Jeff Nippard's response was going to be physical, Mike wasn't worried about it. So I did mention that also in the video. If you want to do it, you can do it, but you're taking a risk.
Right.
So Mike, as he's approached Jeff Nippard, obviously not concerned about that risk. So whatever you do in life, there's a risk. Like when I have my opinion, there's a risk of criticism. But don't be so shocked after it happens. You know what I mean? Look, if I go up to a bunch of lads who are, let's say they are abusing this woman on the street. There's 5 of them, 5 aggressive looking lads. And I'm actually talking about a similar situation that did happen once. I go up to this group of lads, 5 of them, they're abusing this woman, and then I get my head kicked in. Well, I took that risk. Don't be shocked about it. You went into the personal space. There was 5 of them. They were aggressive lads. That's what happens. It doesn't matter what's right or wrong. We can talk about objective morality, but you still got your head kicked in. At the end of the day, trust me, the only person that's going to care is you with your sore head and the close people around you. Everyone else commenting out there on the internet, they put their 2 cents, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, they get on with their day. They don't really care. You know,
Sure.
If something happened, let's say something happened to Jeff. Let's say something serious happened to Jeff and he got his head stomped in. Now, Mike is a huge lad. Whether there's cancelling of Mike, hit pieces on Mike, whether he went to jail or not, it's still going to be you, Jeff, with your head stomped in. And you're going to be with that for the rest of your life. So it is just something to consider. I think it's not productive to go into a man's personal space unless you are willing to take that risk. It doesn't matter whether it's 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years from now, you're taking that risk. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it 100 times. I think we saw that Wes Watson video, and all people I could see talking about. I love the comment section, by the way. Spent a lot of time on it. Actually, it's entertaining. All I could see in the comment section was people talking about it not being a fair fight, and he used weapons, and his boys were there. And I thought to myself, what did you think was going to happen? That dude that went up to that Wes Watson was massive. Massive. A fair fight. Your ego comes last. Protecting yourself comes first, right? First and foremost. So use what you got. If I came up to someone smaller than me, do you think it's smart that that smaller person has a fair fight with me? Or let's say it's not smaller. Let's say that person's not only smaller, but doesn't have any fight experience. Now, you know that I do based on the videos. Do you think it's smarter for him to get a brick on the side of the road and throw it at my head, or to have a fair fight with me? Just so that the wider community can say, oh, good on you, man, you had a fair fight. No, obviously not. Now, I ask you, if you were in that position, what would you do?
If I were whom in that position, the bigger person or the smaller person with the brick? or,
The one with the disadvantage. The one with the disadvantage, you got two options. You can have a fair fight, or you can pick up the brick, or your friends are over there 10 meters away. They can't see you, and you can call them over to come help you. So what do you do?
I don't know if I should entertain that hypothetical, Daniel. I did just want to remark on one thing you mentioned earlier, which was you wouldn't have assaulted Jeff Nippard, though, had you been in Mike Van Wyck's shoes with the CCTV camera. Though I do seem to recall that in your video you said you'd have done the same thing.
If I could get away with it.
If you could get away with it, right? Why is that?
All right, let's create a scenario. Let's say Jeff Nippard's pissed me off. So in this situation, in Mike Van Wyck's case, Jeff Nippard's obviously pissed Mike off. Now, guys, to my knowledge, Mike Van Wyck is 40-odd. I don't know of any long list of like assault history. So it doesn't look like this is something he does on a daily basis. This seems like a one-off, at least based on what we know about him. So for all intents and purposes, Mike is a pretty decent citizen of society, at least up until this point, right? If your gripe is people that do anything physical, up until this point, he obviously hasn't served heaps of time in jail or any time in jail. I don't know exactly, but let's presume that Mike Van Wyck, up until this point, this is not a daily occurrence for him, pushing people at the gym. Okay, so Jeff has done something to him. He's pissed him off. I don't know how. So let's say someone has pissed me off. Also very rare. I do not have any assault charges. I'm 35. But if someone pissed me off to that point, pushing them, I'm not talking about, I'm saying I'm going to crack his head open and stomp on his head. Pushing him. If there were no CCTVs, yeah, I would. I'd just be like, man, get out of here. Piss off. It's, it's not that big of a deal. It's really not. Now, would I maybe reflect on it after and maybe even call the bloke up and be like, fuck, man, you pissed me off. Sorry, bro. Pushed you. It's forgivable is what I'm saying. It's forgivable. Yeah, but, cracking someone's head open and stomping on their head is less forgivable. You can't take back murder, for example.
Right.
You can take back a push.
Yeah, so it seems to be that your argument is that Mike's assault on Jeff isn't such a big deal because Jeff didn't suffer serious physical harm. Is that a fair characterization or summary?
Yeah, and you will unlikely ever suffer serious physical harm from a push. So if it happened 100 times,
right,
more than likely every time you won't suffer serious physical harm. Now, if I get a sledgehammer and hit you in the back of the head, the chances of you suffering serious physical harm are almost certain. So there has to be the conversation.
Made of strong stuff, Daniel. I don't know. It would take a lot more than a sledgehammer to take me down. They called me Solomon Iron Skull back in high school. I'm just joking. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Please keep going.
Well, you're Austrian, bro. Part Austrian. They're tough lads, big lads. But I think we're getting in the weeds a bit. But to wrap that up, to be serious, I don't know the situation between these two lads, but let's presume that both of them thought whatever they were doing was in the right. In future, I don't think it's a good idea to come up to lads at the gym. I guess it depends on where you are in the world, but in certain demographics in Australia, this, you live there, you wouldn't do it. I know you wouldn't do it because you're a smart lad. You know that at the end of the day, whether you criticize it or not, it can still happen to you. So it's just better not to do it.
Daniel, let me put this to you. We've talked about the impact to Jeff, which arguably was not that bad, whether physical or psychological. How about the societal impact? If we allow Mike's behavior to slide because the physical harm wasn't severe, don't you think that might set a troubling precedent, one that might signal that violence is acceptable as long as it doesn't result in major injury? wouldn't that undermine, in some measure, the ethical principles that underlie a fair and just society?
It's a good question. So I guess what we need there is we would have to define framework. So if you were creating a law, and I think one of the laws that is worth creating, because I'm pro-capitalist, is actually not harming others unless you're defending yourself. So that's kind of the main heading. But then you've got to ask yourself, all right, what's defending yourself, what's not, and then what is reasonable force and what's not. And I would argue that you come within striking distance of a man, even if you're not striking them, you're allowed to apprehend them with what is considered reasonable force. Now, the lowest form of force would be a push, probably to the chest. I think he pushed him in the throat, was it? Was it the throat? Was it the throat?
Yeah.
He pushed him? Like, I don't remember. That's probably one up.
Yeah,
that
a throat
hurts a lot.
punch.
I don't know if it was a punch. It looked like he kind of made contact and then pushed. A throat punch gets boom, jab. That hurts, bro. That hurts. But I would actually say that when someone comes into your radius within like a 2 meter striking distance, a push would be the reasonable force. Maybe not to the throat. I'd say, Mike, maybe next time push him in the chest, but there's not much in it. What do you think? So at what point do you think that you are able to preemptively use physical force so that you can prevent someone from doing it in the first place? So I'll tell you, people, you can say whatever you want to me from 10 meters away, 15 meters away, say what you want. Like I said, I have no assault charges, but should you come in my personal space, if I'm getting edgy that you might do something, I'm using some sort of physical force, 100%. Now, if I was on CCTV, this is getting in the weeds a bit, and I felt like I had to do that because the law is quite sensitive in Australia and I presume in Canada. I've actually been in this situation before in a nightclub. I've done that. And so I was pretty sure that something might happen. So I put my hands up, all right? I didn't say anything, but if you put your hands up and the cameras are looking at you, that's basically saying, hey, I don't want to fight. But as soon as he came within striking distance, I actually cracked him first, because I was of the belief, you have to make a judgment call, by the way. You have to make a judgment call. You're a human. I was of the belief that he was going to get something out of his pocket and do me harm either with a weapon or at least his fist. And I just made that judgment call. Turns
Do you
out I
think
was
Mike
right.
Van Wyck made the right judgment call assaulting Jeff?
I don't know their personal situation. I don't. But from what I know about Jeff online, he seems like a harmless guy. He does, right? So we'll start with that. Seems like, right? Number two, Mike, like I said in the video, may have made a mistake, right? I actually said that in the video that you were editing. But what I wanted to actually point out is not necessarily their specific situation. Just in general, it's not a good idea to come up to people, because I think what the normies or people that haven't been in these scenarios think is that when you get into these confrontations with another man in close quarters, you think that your mind is thinking clearly and that you're preemptively thinking about this and you're calculating everything like you would after the fact, like hindsight. It doesn't work that way. When you get an adrenaline dump, you actually do think very apish, like a lot of the comment sections say. You even forget. You know what's crazy, bro? I've had scenarios where you forget. The adrenaline takes over so much because you're in this fight or flight scenario that you forget because of that adrenaline dump. And you do things that when people tell you, you're like, yeah, man, I had to get you off him. You're like, what? When did that happen? You can't actually remember.
Right, but surely, Daniel, an explanation isn't the same thing as an excuse.
What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, so just because someone's behavior might be explained adequately by adrenaline or a momentary lapse in judgment doesn't in any way negate the harm of what they might have done or negate the necessity of punitive action.
No, you're right. You are right. But in this situation, the worst Mike did was a push. So it's his explanation would be like, well, I ended up pushing the guy. it's just forgivable. Like, honestly, I'll say it publicly. Here's what I would do if I was Mike. Here's what I would do, right? Let's say I did feel like it was an overreaction. I'd probably publicize it. Say, look, man, I'm sorry for pushing you. It's too much. You okay? I'm glad you're okay. I don't think Mike really deep down thinks more happened to Jeff. That's just kind of my personal intuition. I don't think that he hopes Jeff would suffer. I don't think so. I don't know, but I doubt it. That's what I'd do. I'd publicly say, look, I overreacted. Now, if I didn't feel that way, I'd say the same thing. I'd say, now you know, don't come into my personal space or you'll get another push. It's just not that big of a deal, man. A push. Now, I don't know, in Canada,
Daniel,
Australia's laws, I don't know if you could go to jail for that, but in this day and age, who knows? I think you were studying law, you were saying. In Canada, I hear it's very similar.
Yeah, I'll start soon.
What's that, sorry?
I'm starting soon.
Okay, starting soon. Now, in Bali, in Indonesia, the laws are different to the laws that are enforced. Fights break out all the time in Bali because people are drinking. There's lots of alcohol involved. But a push like that almost certainly would not be seen as a big deal, at least in terms of what's enforced, not necessarily what's on paper, but what would be enforced. They're actually of the belief that they like to bring people together to see if there's some sort of reconciliation. So some sort of mediator from maybe a local banja, if it was that important. You say your piece, you say your piece. Can we find a way for you guys to shake hands and move on? And then it does. I'd like to see that. Wouldn't you?
I wanted to ask Daniel. Oh yeah, no doubt. It would be great if Jeff and Mike could, just talk through their problem. I don't know. Maybe Mike is receptive to that, and Jeff hasn't reached out, or perhaps it's the other way around. I really can only speculate. Daniel, I wanted to ask, what do you think? I mean, because you mentioned self-defense, someone entering your personal space. Would you argue that Mike acted in self-defense?
That's a good question, eh? And I haven't had the internal dialogue. But self-defense meaning, did he think that Jeff was going to use physical harm on him? All right? Don't think so. All right.
Yes.
But as I said in the video, maybe Mike made an error. Let's say he didn't think that. Okay. Again, I don't want to say what's in Mike's head because I don't know. He didn't tell me. I don't know him that well enough. But let's say he didn't and he still pushed the bloke. Again, it's forgivable. And I guys, I'll be honest, Mike is a human. He probably has a family, wife, kids, etc. For him to receive that much flack for it, man, he got his social media taken from him, his income taken from him. I'm not sure what you think, but I don't really consider myself that much of a vengeful monster. And if someone pushed me, I would not wish for them to be cancelled or have that much taken away from them so that they could earn less for them and their family. Nope, no way. I'm sorry. I mean, if you guys want to hate Mike and continue to hate Mike because he pushed this guy or whatever, go for it. But it wouldn't be me, even if I was Jeff Nippard. Nope. I don't know, bro. I don't hold grudges. You made a hit piece on me that I didn't feel that was that fair. We're having a conversation already. You can actually,
Yeah, sure. No, we can maybe return to Mike Van Wyck later, but in what ways did you feel that my video was unfair? I'm just curious.
All right, so it's only fair, I think, with a reaction video when they show the whole thing, and then in the corner, that person is stopping, then narrating, stopping, then narrating. Obviously, yours was more of a Greg Douchet take, but again, even though it was edited down, I take it for the entertainment factor. I can't sit here and tell you,
Sure.
even though I don't particularly think it's a very nice thing to do, to continually make content about Mike Israetel. So if you do one piece on someone, there's a difference between just hammering it home every day, all day, especially with the popularity that Greg Doucet had. But I've got to be honest, have I seen a couple of his on Dr. Mike Israetel? Have I had moments of laughter? I had. I just put my hand up. And like I said, in the video you made about me, which was very Greg Doucet-esque, I laughed as well. On the video about me.
Really? Thank you. I'm glad you got a laugh out of it.
You got to, man. Taking life this seriously.
You're very good-spirited about it.
Is there any other way to be when you think about it? When you think about this life that we're living, one day we're all going to die. You think on your deathbed you're going to be looking back going, oh, that fucking hit piece they made about me, or that thing that I said stupid online. You're not. You're going to be thinking about your kids, your family around you, the joy you had, maybe some of the larger regrets that you had that you really wish you went after. But you're probably not even going to think about this a year from now, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
The laugh in the meantime, it's good for you. Honestly, it is.
Yeah. As far as my video goes, I wouldn't say certainly there was no intention on my part to distort your words or arguments semantically. I censored the offensive words, at least offensive to the YouTube algorithm. I applied some visual and auditory effects, and I cut out certain utterances for brevity. But I would certainly agree to the extent that my video only showed one side of you. And having gotten to know you, certainly not the best side, because you do have a certain charisma about you. And unfortunately, I think that my video kind of collapsed that aspect of you. And hey, if we're on the topic of regrets, if I have any of my own, then that'd be the main one, I'd say. My video basically captured your very worst moment, and you're more than just that video, for sure.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. But you could just take it down. You know how many videos I've taken down from YouTube? I've taken down the majority of them. If you guys wanted to do a hit piece about me, if you go to Broderick's subscriber section and you see those old podcasts of me, it's a very different me. And those,
really?
What I take, oh yeah, go through them. You're going to spend a few hours, but there's some comments there. What you forget doing these podcasts with Broderick, you get so comfortable with someone that you talk to on a daily basis that you're saying things either A, you don't mean, or you're using language that you don't register could be taken a different way. Now, you're actually so much better at this than me. I'm not that good for it. I am not that good with my words that I'm always thinking about who I will offend and who I won't offend. I'm kind of just saying things, and more often than not, I reflect on what I say and regret it, which is why the majority of my podcasts now are interviews where I'm not being interviewed. Because I actually don't think I'm the best man for the job. I'll say that. I think that I ask pretty good questions about specific topics, PED-related topics, maybe some health-related stuff on harm reduction on PEDs. But as far as me giving my opinions, not only do I go wrong too often, I'm sure I've said things in this podcast where I'm also going to regret. So if that's a pattern that I think is happening on a regular enough basis, I should just stop doing it. I should stop doing it, because then it starts becoming a harm to myself and to the public. I don't know. We'll see. We'll look at this podcast. We'll see if I reflect on it. But honestly, you just can't be good at everything in life. You can't. I have my strengths that I know that I can measure objectively. I'm not sure if this is one of them. If you go to my podcast, some of the things I do discuss are unrelated to fitness completely unrelated to fitness. When it comes to politics, when it comes to religion, when it comes to this kind of objective morality, especially with self-defense, you are always, and I mean always, going to have that group over there, the Mike Van Wyck group, then me, which is probably more on that spectrum, but a bit more in the middle, and then the people that basically violence is never the answer, never the solution. But it doesn't matter how many videos you make about it, how many people you try to convince to take your side, you'll always have the people on your side and people against your side. And on that note, I spoke to you in Instagram, the cancelling of Mike, although it took a big chunk out of his following from the people that didn't agree, it allowed him to hone in on the niche of people that are like him. And now I'm seeing people tag him in that are, you know, very much like him in that sense. They're getting closer, and then other people are getting away. And you know what's allowed this divide? The constant videos about it. If you keep putting it out there, for example, if you keep putting this stuff out there, you're going to create this divide further and further, because these sorts of topics are very hard to ever come to a conclusion on. I mean, the socialism capitalism debate, well, you argue to no end. These people have come in my comment section, and I'm just like, I'm not touching that one. I'm not touching that one. Let someone else. Religion, I'm not touching that one, because they don't really have objective conclusions to them.
Just on the topic of Mike Van Wyck gaining or potentially solidifying his following, gaining followers or solidifying his following despite his assault of Jeff, you didn't mean for that to be a defense of his behavior, surely?
No.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't argue that the tolerance for his behavior in certain communities should be I think that should be critiqued rather than celebrated, personally.
I'm neither for or against. I'll tell you where I'm strong against. If someone was promoting missiles getting bombed in someone's house, which actually does happen to my wife's community there in Kiev, that to me is very serious. And that is kind of, everyone's got a different line in the sand, right? Everyone's got a different line in the sand, right? And mine is just probably way on the other end of the spectrum. But even then, me and my wife have had conversations where we even take into context Russia and Ukraine scenario, where it's maybe there is a case for Russia doing what they're doing. You don't know. You only know what you see on the media. So it's better not to put your opinions out there. I'm not going to have an opinion on that one. I'm not doing it. I'm just saying that she's actually the victim, her family directly, of literally missiles getting blown into their building. And even they can see, well, maybe there's a context for that. You don't know. You don't know what else is going on. And so in this situation, which is way lighter, although I'm neither having for and against, you can see what happens. You're going to get this side over there having their opinion and this side over there having an opinion. And which is why I like to talk about things that have the potential for more objective conclusions. So in this conversation, there'll be very little people that agree with my take on Mike Van Wyck. Your viewership is very different to Mike Van Wyck's viewership. But your viewership and Mike's viewership, if I said 2 + 2 = 4, 99.99% of people will say, yep, 2 + 2 is 4. I got nothing to debate about that. And those are the sorts of areas that I prefer to have a dialogue around, because one, they're easier, and two, they're more productive. Like they're simply more productive. So the reason I like finance and I like to talk about Bitcoin is because no matter what anyone says to me, if I say, if you invested in Bitcoin 10 years ago, it's worth more now than it was 10 years ago, there's no debate. There's no debate. There's no debate about that particular sentence. Jeff Bezos talked about it when he would address shareholders at Amazon. You weren't allowed to use weasel words. Okay, so you weren't allowed to use words like significant, a lot, many. You had to say, we increased sales in this sector by by 27% from January 12th to February. Very objective with numbers. And so as soon as the conversation gets away from numbers and gets more to weasel words, these are discussions that I think will be up for more criticism. And also you'll probably just be debating until no end. And the reason I say that is because there is a lot of topics that people are bombing each other over now that there's been no progress. Like when it comes to religion, you all know it. There's been no progress. These guys have been arguing for centuries. When it comes to politics, these guys have been arguing for centuries. There's been zero progress there. So I'm not going to add fuel to the fire there.
Well, I don't know about zero. No, especially not in politics. Well, like women in most developed countries have the right to vote now. That's I mean, something changed between 2 centuries ago and now.
You know what's funny about that statement? The fact that you said the right to vote is a good thing. And even though I agree with you, there are literally people, right, that disagree with you. I'm not going to talk about which groups because these are the groups I don't want after me. But these groups of people, countries even, where you don't have the right to a vote unless you are a certain individual and a certain gender, they're still doing it like that, bro. They're still doing it like that. And they see your progress as going backwards. They don't like that.
Regress, again, sure.
Regress, that's the word. So again, it'll just keep going that way. As much as I could,
but just because someone holds a different view doesn't mean that it's an equally valid view, surely.
To whose eyes?
I mean, there are situations where, I mean, objective reality. I mean, if there is, you know, a hydrogen molecule in front of you, and someone calls it iron, and then you analyze it, and it turns out to be hydrogen, then the person calling it iron is just wrong in objective reality. Now, it's harder to establish the right and wrong perspective sometimes in objective reality. So I do take your point. Obviously, this is, you know, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't entirely agree with the whole like in whose eyes thing. I mean, you can appeal to subjectivity in a great number of matters, but I don't know if that's productive.
I agree with you. You can, or at least I thought I could, until I saw a video the other day. And again, I'm getting into dangerous waters here. You'd think objective morality would be if you saw a little girl on the street who's 5 years old, that it would be the wrong thing to do to go up to her and shoot her in the head. You'd think if you saw a grandma on the street walking across the street, she fell over, you'd think it'd be the right thing to do to pick her up and help her than to bomb her. But in the eyes of some of these people, that is not the case. And that to me is just like, whoa, really? But it opens my eyes to being like, yeah, just when you think there is objective morality, trust me, there are people and societies out there that the hatred they have in their heart, man. I mean, I'm not going to touch it anyway. You know what I mean? I can safely say I don't want to be brave enough to talk about these groups of people because I'd much rather protect me and my family and let someone else do that. Let someone else have the win. It won't be me. I'm all good here debating about pushing and hydrogen atoms and hypertrophy research. It's okay, bro. That's harmless. You know, literally harmless. But I'm not going to touch those topics. I'll just be the first one to say, if I change my mind one day and you see me as an activist risking my life, like some of these politicians, then you'll know about it. But until then, no. I love my selfishly, I love my family, my daughter, my friends too much to take that risk.
Yeah, good on you. More power to you for that.
Okay, let's talk about some of the things that are not necessarily disagreements we have, but rather me. We can talk about me. We could talk about my gear use, my face tattoos, some other things. I just need to take
please.
Can we do that?
Yeah, of course.
1 minute. I've been busting for a leak since we started.
Oh, no.
All right.
Welcome back, Daniel.
Thank you. Before we do that, man, how could I have forgot Lyle McDonald? How could I have forgot? Fuck.
Yeah, what's up?
Man, I'll tell you the Lyle McDonald situation. I hope he watches at least this snippet, right? With Lyle, everything with me and him was sweet. We were doing podcasts with one another. Really nice guy, Lyle McDonald is, until you're on his bad side, all right? Now, I 100% regret, even if I disagreed with the nerds or Mike Van Wyck situation, I shouldn't have said anything about him, even if I disagreed with it publicly. I should have messaged him, like he said in an email, and said, look, man, I think that this thing with you and Mike Israetel, you constantly making these videos or remarks about him is getting a little bit obsessive. I think it's not productive anymore for the people that you're helping. You help a lot of people. And then he could have said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm like, all right, man, cool. Like, I don't think we'll do podcasts anymore. Like, if we just had that man-to-man conversation, even with email, because we can't meet in person, he lives too far away, I'd have been okay with it. Even if we had a back and forth where we were abusing one another, as long as that was in private or started in private, it'd have been okay with me. The fact that the first point of contact that I made was online, not happy about myself at all. I've just got to get the door. I think there's a delivery. Sorry, I've been expecting that. Just let me get this delivery 1 sec. I'm just going to get this delivery. One minute maximum.
Yeah, you're all right.
Apologies, man.
You're all right. Welcome back.
Where were we?
You were voicing your regrets to do with how you handled the Lyle McDonald situation. And you know what? Regret shows growth. You know, I don't think it's ever too late to do as you're doing. And well, that's basically owning up, apologizing, trying to rebuild, even if the outcome isn't guaranteed. You know, I think it is big of you.
Thanks, bro. I think it's important for everyone. I was going to say for men, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to get criticized for saying that. It's important for all humans.
I don't think you would. I don't think you would, because, you know, that's a separate conversation, but I think that's defensible. Go on.
Yeah. No, it is important for all humans, I think, at least, that when it comes to friendships, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say me and Lyle were the best of bros, but any friendship you're trying to form, at least, it's important to, A, keep things private. Honestly, it really is. And I don't know why I did that. We can talk about some of my impulse stuff soon as well. But if you do fuck up, people fuck up. People mess up. Sorry, you got to cut that one.
Yeah, all right.
It's just important to say, hey, man, look, did the wrong thing. I'm sorry. If it's too late now, it's all good. But I'm going to say it anyway. I'm sorry. And so to Lyle, I'd say, look, man, I'm sorry that my first point of contact was public in a video and not in the DM. Even though I would have said the same thing, I'd have said, look, man, I don't like this constant going after Mike or his personal life and that. Not because I think that much of Mike. It's just I don't think it necessarily makes Lyle look any better. Do you know what I mean? Like, it kind of looks like
I don't think he cares what it looks. I think he's just doing what he thinks is right.
Yeah. And you can respect Lyle for that. You actually can. I reflected on it. You can, even though I wouldn't do it. So I had my 10 minutes of making videos like this, and I fucking hated myself after it, bro. I don't know about hated myself. I wasn't happy with myself. And like I said, I took those videos down even before you made the video, which is like, bro, you were onto that saving quickly. I mean, guys, if you're going to leave a digital footprint out there, someone will save it faster than you can say boo, because you even saved it before I changed the title error that I made. McCondle.
Oh, I didn't even. Really?
You saved it hell quick. Like, it must have just dropped and then you saved it.
It appears that my mouse is malfunctioning. 1 second, but sorry, you can keep talking. I'll just see if I can fix this.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, for people out there, maybe think twice, 3 times before you post something, not like I did, because someone out there will save it. Even if you do remove it, once you leave a digital footprint out on the internet, it's pretty much out there, and that's it now. Now you're going to have to deal with it, or try and do a podcast like this and clear things up. So that's my advice.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it seems that it is true. You did take it down long before I made my video. You know, by the time I realized that you'd taken them down, it was it was basically too late. But by which I mean, you know, I had already, I mean, I had basically prepared the bloody thing, and I did have some trepidation about uh, basically dredging up a video that you yourself consigned to the seabed. But ultimately, rightly or wrongly, I did make the decision that the subject matter was too interesting not to discuss.
Yeah, I think me and you actually agree on more than I thought as well. So it sort of sounds like outside of the Mike Van Wyck situation, which I probably still haven't really well defined. There is a lot of contradictions there. It does sort of sound like me and you agree on more than not, which brings me to an important topic. If you could just be good with language, if you could be one of those language poets, you can avoid a lot of this stuff. And I'm not one of them, really not,
Right.
because using the right language can help. And when you misuse language, I mean, you are up for criticisms that you didn't even mean. And because people don't watch the full videos, they might watch 30 seconds. I mean, no one cares whether they chopped it up. You can go on the internet and be like, this is not what I said. They didn't watch the full hour and a half. Everyone's going to be like, fuck off, man. I'm not watching an hour and a half. Like, you're a dickhead. You said that. Go away. You know what I mean? That's
I
going to
do.
happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that's unfortunately one of the realities of long form content. People are going to chop it up and they'll use it even though they know you didn't mean that. I mean, if you look at the Greg Boucher edits, even though I think they're pretty harmless. I mean, if Mike was to ever listen to this podcast, I'm sorry, bro, but they're harmless. I don't know if he has kids or anything like that, but Greg hasn't made any videos about Mike's kids. It's about how soft he was for a competition. Now, on that note, if I was Mike Israetel, I'd be thinking, yeah, look, you know what? I'm definitely no pro bodybuilder, and it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, just based on his genetic structure.
And
Even
his
if he got,
trajectory, like over the past decade. Yeah.
over the past decade, he's getting on with age, is 40, it's like it's done pretty much. But I'd also say, fuck, there's bigger things in life. But maybe there's not. And that's the thing I forget. I do forget because I'm not a bodybuilder. There isn't more to life. And I've got friends, personal friends. All right. Nick Lucadis, who I did a podcast with, he opens my eyes to bodybuilding. He's like, no, you don't get it. This is it. This is my thing. Not him necessarily, just his clients because of the PT. I'm not saying what people should value in life and what they shouldn't. I personally think that if someone's critiquing how soft I am before a comp, it's not the end of the world. But I mean, maybe he is affected by it. I don't know. Would you, on that note, would you agree that if we are going to, do we have time?
Yeah.
If we are going to criticize someone in the future, which there is some value to it, obviously, is it just a nicer way to go about it than the ridicule? I know for me, I won't be making videos like that again. Wasn't fulfilling, wasn't productive. No one's proud of me for it. Even the people, look, I had a lot of positive comments on my comment section of those videos. Everyone just reinforcing, yeah, I hate those nerds, yeah. And you sit there like, oh yeah, everyone agrees with me. And then I thought later on, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like most of these people, even the people positively commenting on my videos are anonymous. Like who the fuck are these people? They got profile pictures of their cats. They're not even real. They probably look, act, and have a life I don't want to live. Right. So imagine taking a hateful comment so seriously that this person commenting on you has got everything you don't want in life. Imagine valuing that opinion.
Yeah, I take your point, Daniel. You touched on something before, which is maybe there's a gentler way to make a critique. the way I view it is, and if you've looked at my work, then you'll see it's full of satire. I mean, it's not just about you; it's also about other figures. It's just the way that I roll, basically, and that's because I think the world is quite amusing. And further, yes, we are here to educate. I know you are too, but we're also here to entertain and win audiences. And you've got to find an angle that is at once instructive and also kind of funny. And you even admitted as much in our private correspondences. I mean, you noted that the great comics basically make jokes at the expense of others, and that's since Aristophanes. The genesis of what we today consider to be comedy.
You're right. You obviously speak a lot more eloquently than myself, and I don't think I'm the person to do it. But you're right. My favorite comics: Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, Shane Gillis. Can't even believe I don't remember his name, because I just see the YouTube shorts. I mean, they are really jokes about other groups, other minorities, other cultures. And like I said, this time I was the joke. And yeah, it's still never nice. Do you know what I mean? Like you recognize it. You recognize you're doing it to someone else. You're laughing about that group. But then when the joke's on you, you're like, it's funny, but fuck you, But you get over it. You do get over it after a day or two. And if you're not getting over it after that, there's a deeper insecurity if you're not getting over something after a long time, I think.
I agree. Yeah. But you're not insecure about hardly any of the things that the commenters were pointing out.
Well, they're not really
you
serious.
Just took it on the chin. Well, yeah, I mean, you view it in a really kind of with a positive frame of mind.
Well, there's only one thing that I wish I didn't have,
right,
and that's the list, because you're speaking in a way that you don't like the sound of. So when you hear your voice, and then you hear, say, Lex Friedman's voice or Joe Rogan's voice, the first thing I said when I made my first podcast is, my voice sounds a little gay, but it's not the voice I want.
Let's say lame from now on.
Lame. See, I did it again.
It's okay. It's fine.
I did it again. See, I can't help myself.
It's all right. It's all right.
It wasn't my preferred voice, so I knew that from the get-go. All right, so that would be the only thing that I'd love to change. As for the rest of it, I mean, the face tattoos, we'll talk about them. I'm a tattoo shop owner.
Yeah.
Now I'd prefer to remove the face tattoos and the hand tattoos.
Right.
They garner attention that isn't productive. But look, if I had trouble with getting a partner, having a family. So imagine I wasn't able to attract a woman to have the child that I have now, the joy that my daughter brings me, because of my face tattoos or because of my speech impediment, then it's going to affect me, like I said.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd prefer not to have the lisp. I prefer not even to have the face tattoos now, but it's not impacting my life to the point where I'm going to go out and do speech classes. Because if you care about it, you can actually get rid of that stuff. Apparently, you can do speech classes. So that's the long and short of it there. As far as me looking like an ape, I'd say that's that would be a greater insult to me, because I don't necessarily consider myself an intellectual. I don't know who's defined as one of those. You certainly speak in a more eloquent way than myself. I have a lot of slang. It's a bit slurry, but I don't like to be called dumb, because I do believe my podcast is quite helpful for that niche. Yes. So, I mean, that is something that I do wish I could kind of showcase to people, that there's a little bit more to me. But outside of that, I mean, the comments weren't that bad. A lot of people were honing in on the use of the word gay. They were honing in on the use of the word gay, and then because I had a list, they're like, oh, well, you're gay. I thought to myself, well, you guys, I wasn't making jokes about you guys, but they love to virtue signal. Honestly, the guys, the homosexuals. Can you say homosexual? Is that offensive?
It depends on the context.
What do you call them these days? Is it
Gay
it
people.
gay? Okay, gay people come in and they steal the thunder. They steal the thunder. It's like, mate, I didn't mention you, okay? And to be fair, though, it didn't sound like they were offended. They just wanted to throw in the jokes about my list, but I don't think there was any. Oh, there was comments about my eyebrows, about how they grew.
You've got very kind of thick, bushy. They like threaded or something, or what's the deal?
No. So for me, if I let them go, it'll be an upside down McDonald's. It'll be a McDonald's.
Right.
Go all the way through. And in high school, I had a few girls that would come up to me and say, "Look, Daniel, we like the way you look or whatever, but you got to fix up those eyebrows." Like girls will come up to me seriously. You got to fix them up. And then when I did, I had much more success in the dating world, let's say.
Well, good on you. I personally, I don't, I never made fun of you for your look. Even though the commenters think there's plenty of subject matter.
Yeah, and maybe there is. I guess if I was ever to give dating advice to a man, I'd say hone in on your niche. Don't try and listen to. By the way, don't listen to other men about how to get a woman that you want. You want to be attracting the woman that you desire, that you want. So it's much more valuable to take opinions from females, but in particular in your niche. So you've got the rock star look, the punk look, the kind of bold beard bad guy look, which is where people categorize me and Wes Watson and all them. And there are different girls for different niches. There honestly is. There's really different tastes for different people. So I'd say hone in on your niche, be who you are. And if you want to change something about your physical appearance, whether it's your muscle mass, your body fat, or something even on your face, I mean, go for it. Why not?
See, this is you at your best. I reckon this is a topic that you could get a lot of traction discussing. Basically, date. And I think I like what you said just then, because I think, well, I've seen people online talk dismissively about women's stated preferences and what they find attractive in men. You'll hear, people will go, "Oh, they don't really mean that they like dad bods," or what they mean by a dad bod is actually Chris Bumstead. And it's like, no, like sometimes they say what they mean, right? Anyway, but I think we're on the same page about that.
I am 100%, bro, because in my friendship group, we have so many different looking blokes, and the sorts of women that'll be attracted to one friend and not to the other friend. It just seems like the more and more I observe it, there is no pattern outside of a few basic frameworks. So on average, if you're a man, to have lower body fat is on average more attractive to the majority of women. When I say the majority, 90% and beyond. On average, unfortunately, even for myself, to be taller as a man is helpful. Like I got some really tall friends, guys. If you don't think so, trust me, it's helpful. So there's a few physical traits and personality traits that are on average more attractive to the majority, but you're always going to find your niche, because at the end of the day, I say this to people: you only got to find one. It's one, bro. Yeah.
Unless you think there's any special merit in inflated body counts or whatever. I mean, I think that's also juvenile, but yeah, I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your sexual fetish where you need to fuck heaps of women, I mean, that's going to be hard to achieve that. You need to attract more than one. It's going to be more hard, I guess.
Yeah. Daniel, just to pivot briefly, there were many comments about your face tattoos, and I know we were going to discuss them. Many people were trying to interpret the one above your eyebrow. Some wrote some commenters wrote that it said prostate or potatoes or even prostitute. But what I think it says is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, potestas. Am I right?
Yeah, protestas.
Yeah. But sure, which is Latin, I believe, for power or faculty. And I looked into it. I mean, I really should, because I'm going to be studying law. But I did a bit of a dive into it. There's this concept in Roman law called patria potestas, which is, it refers to the right of the pater familias, the paternal head of the house, as it were. It referred to his authority over the rest of his family, which included the slaves. And you know, I mean, you mentioned you wanted to get rid of your tattoos. I mean, if you're going to have a face tattoo, I think potestas is honestly pretty cool. I don't think you should disown it.
I'll comment if you want. It's
Yeah.
not going to be the answer that I think you'll get. So when it comes to that word, I actually just seen it on someone else. Most of my tattoos, unfortunately, were and are just art. No meaning behind them whatsoever. Most people, I'm a tattoo shop owner, by the way, in Bali, Indonesia, and it's a considerable enterprise. So I know the psychology behind buying a tattoo. And you might be shocked to believe that most people get impulsive tattoos. They change their mind last minute. And a lot of the tattoos they get have no meaning behind them whatsoever. I did like the word, but I mostly at the time just liked the shape of the word in that font.
Right.
That's it, bro. You know, when you're in the tattoo industry, especially in Southeast Asia, you'd be surprised at how common it is in the shop to see people with face tattoos. So you're in a community where it's not necessarily that common, but it's not uncommon either to have face tattoos. Now, the reason I want to remove them, what actually happens over time, especially on the face, is these tattoos smudge. When I got this face tattoo above my eyebrow, it looked nothing like that, which is why it's a struggle for you to read what it says now, because it smudges.
Right.
Okay?
Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I just switched to my headset.
Yep. Okay. So the tattoos, they smudge on the face because as we're aging, the skin, it's a little bit more thin, and it's
Yes.
The elastin, it's very different to say your shoulder where it's always quite tight, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The tattoo actually has no real meaning behind it. I did look into the meaning of the word somewhat, but honestly, that wasn't really the intention behind it. I have a what's it called, a hummingbird on the side of my face because at the time I figured I really liked that bird. Like it is a, when someone goes, that is fucking stupid, I'm like, I know. When you are in the tattoo industry, you just, it's an addiction, it's this thing, I don't know what it is, but so many people have it where they just end up covered. They just end up covered. But also, conversely, a lot of us reflect over time. Maybe it's fashion changes, time changes, and then you regret them. The difference is you can change the color of your t-shirt in an instant. You can't change your face tattoos that quick.
Yeah.
It's not like...
Yeah, I'm with you. And it kind of sucks because, and I don't view it this way because I try to evaluate arguments on their individual merit, you know, regardless of whom they come from, or least of all what they should look like. That, I guess that's just my training in philosophy. But a lot of my commenters wrote that your face tattoos somehow disqualify your credibility. You know, they're sort of operating with the heuristic monstro in fronte, monstrum in animo, to match your Latin potestas, which translates to monster in the face, monster in the soul. But I just don't buy into that.
It's a good point. Look, I don't shop out of my wallet. That's what I say in business. So when I think of selling something, I don't think whether I'll buy it or not. I'll think whether or not a customer will buy it. I actually agree with these commenters. I agree with these commenters, even though it's about me, because the vast majority of people in Western Sydney and in Perth that have face tattoos do typically be or are criminals a lot of the time. Okay, especially if have that overall appearance like me, the muscularity, the beard, etc. So if you are trying to sell something, and in this case, sell what I have to say, is it an advantage to have a face tattoo or a disadvantage? I think most people would agree it's a disadvantage. So you can scream and shout all you want, like the woke people. Don't judge us based on our pink hair. Don't judge us based on our fashion. But the fact is, people do and always will. So if you want to make it a screaming contest, go for it. But if you want to be heard, you should act professional, because at the end of the day, the face tattoos don't matter. So don't put them on. What you have to say matters, which is why in politics, when people wear a nice brushed up suit, have nice combed hair, look the part, nice tailored suit, people will listen more. It's much easier to make your life easier. But, you know, a lot of people are not in it to have to say what they have to say or want people to hear them. They want to have that attention, to be different, and they want to convince people to agree with them that you shouldn't judge them based on their appearance. But the fact is we do, and we always will. So I can't disagree with them, and my face tattoos will be removed at some point.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're basically playing life on hard mode, if you like. Because the fact is, people will judge you. I mean, I'm not superficial like that. I don't care personally. I don't, you know, I just like it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have to labor that point.
You are very you're very well read. You're an intellect. I would say that people like you are less common. The fact of the matter is, especially if you are a politician or you are a business owner, and the more employees you have, the more you actually see what the vast majority are like. And especially in the last few years, it's actually very easy for me to see why a lot of my employees are more socialist and why a lot of the other business owners are more pro-capitalist, because it supports their life, or at least they think it does. There's just there's a divide based on the experience you have. Okay, so it's actually quite easy for me and you to have this conversation where I can see it from their point of view and you don't judge me based on this. But most people listening are not even going to get to a minute in before they start the face tattoo comments again.
I'll refer them to this timestamp.
Okay. I think that wraps up the face tattoo stuff. I mean, if you want to get them, get them. If you don't want to get them, don't. I definitely, if I could go back in time, would remove my face tattoos and my hand tattoos. I've actually become quite fond of the whole dapper look, especially here in Vienna. Like, I wish I could wear a suit again, maybe even have a hair transplant and have my hair back. I mean, I really love that look, once again. But at the same time, it's not a deal breaker for me, and I can remove them, and I'll be happy as long as my face tattoos are gone. Yeah, that's it. I think we move on to the...
Although I do think you could set yourself apart with the contrast of the bald head, the, as you put it earlier, bad boy sort of look with the dapper at the same time. Kind of like how Tristan and Andrew Tate are often wearing these tailored, expensive suits. It is a look. Can't take that away from them.
Those two are very well brushed. I mean, they have no tattoos or visible tattoos. I think that they look great. They are obviously they're tall men. They have the kind of, what's the word, very classy look. It'd be very hard for me to pull that off. I'm a little bit bulkier, shorter.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different. I mean, yeah, look, if being a personal brand is your thing, it's not necessarily the top of my priority list, and you want to set yourself apart, then it could be an advantage. You're right, it could. But I'll tell you one thing, if you think about this honing in on your niche thing, when I did get face tattoos, obviously I didn't have them at one point. You do get a very different set of females that are attracted to it. And for me, the majority of them were not the females that I like. Strippers, OnlyFans type girls, this sort of stuff started coming my way more often. And
what's your type?
My type of female. Okay, fuck. This is gonna.
Maybe we don't go here. We can talk about something else.
No, we can. I'll speak some of it because again, I'm not looking to offend people. I have a wife and a child now, so I don't need flack from females now. I mean, there's just no benefit for it. But I like girls that are exclusive. I'm not necessarily against girls showing a lot of skin online, but I'm not attracted to it. So I'm not hating on it. I'm just not attracted to it. I like exclusive girls. Obviously, the lower the body count, the better for me. I like girls that are quite the opposite of me, as well. So if a girl is career focused like me, that isn't attractive to me, because I like a girl that is actually quite absorbed with that traditional wanting to be a mother, spend as much time with the family as possible. Like, I love that.
Yep.
It's me. It's always been me. I don't think that's necessarily bad. Obviously, when it comes to physical appearance, I do like a very classically or universally beautiful woman, girl that takes care of herself, goes to the gym, very feminine. My wife is Ukrainian. Obviously, they are quite famous for their looks. So you can probably imagine what she looks like. Okay.
You don't have to imagine, though.
I don't have to imagine. Most people on the street are always approaching her. Okay, let's say that much. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. I think that's not necessarily a bad take on females.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for opening up. I don't know why the hell I asked that question.
That's all right. We'll have a convo. I'm definitely more mindful in this podcast of stepping a foot wrong, because, like I said, what benefit is it of me to have all these videos made about me? Imagine there was another one from someone even more popular that started getting snippets from me. I mean, maybe it even happens. I mean, I don't need that. She doesn't need that. My daughter doesn't need it. Maybe there are people out there that they think, well, any publicity is good publicity. Maybe it is good for them. But for me, I don't make an income from the online world. I don't monetize my podcast or anything like that. So it's, if anything, either neutral or just a negative.
Understood. Yeah. I mean, I've always been doubtful of that all publicity is good publicity claim. For certain folks, it quite manifestly is. I mean, Donald Trump is an easy example. I mean, a lot of stuff that would have any other politician, it was like water off a duck's back for Trump. Quite incredible stuff. I'm not endorsing that. I'm just commenting on a reality, but yeah, I mean, I mean, oh my God, can you imagine if it emerged that, just think of anyone popular, if it emerged that, let's just say Tony Abbott were a pedophile, and suddenly that became what everyone talked about. Would that be good for him? Surely not.
No. But those people do get cancelled. Those people do get cancelled, and they should get cancelled. When we talk about objective morality, I mean, there are a few things on the list. That's one of them, like hurting puppies. I mean, I'm a dog guy, or hurting animals in general, sorry, not just puppies. But there are certain things on the list that absolutely 100% deserve to be exposed all day long. It's good for society. I wouldn't even have the argument about it. But, for Donald Trump, it is remarkable because a lot of the stuff was just low blows. And I thought to myself, man, this one's going to get him. This one's going to get him. You're almost excited to see the result. And yeah, like you said, what did you say? Water off a duck's back?
Yeah.
I know.
It was incredible. I mean, I couldn't believe it that he won the presidency despite saying in the debate, in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there.
It tells you two things. It either says when someone's value overrides the kind of stupid things they do, that's all that matters. So there's like an equation, right? So Chris Brown goes and beats up Rihanna badly. Definitely don't agree with that. But he's still got girls waiting in line for him because of the value he brings in that area for those women overrides so much of the girls that won't be with him. So at the end of the day, he has a net positive of whatever he's looking for. And I think with these popular
according to the calculus that some women employ, yes.
Yeah, it's some women or a lot, actually, in his case. You know about this. And my brother, my younger brother, I got two brothers. He showed me this. He's actually my business partner. And he's a gamer. I'm not a gamer, or he was a gamer. And I heard that Elon Musk blatantly lied about his status in Diablo. Did you hear this?
Yeah, Diablo 4 and Path of Exile 2, he boosted his characters, expecting the adulation of gamers or some. I don't know why he did that.
Either.
He's also claimed. Oh my God! Don't get me started on that guy. How about I seem to recall that, I mean, I could be wrong about this, but he said that he didn't ever get into chess because it was too easy for him. I mean, sorry, but chess is only as easy or hard as your opponent is good. Is he really claiming that there's nobody who could challenge him in the game of chess? Didn't he say on Joe Rogan's podcast that he was one of the best Quake players in the world when he was younger? I just call BS on that, especially given his history of lying about his accolades in video games.
Yep. So let's take him as an example. It seems, at least to the gamer community, I haven't met one gamer that hasn't said that's BS. So I'm going to take them for their word on it. Despite him saying maybe 100 plus of these quote unquote blatant lies over time, he still is valued by society because the good he does outweighs those lies. All right. At least on the whole. So, I mean, from what I know about at least his companies, I think a lot of his innovations are great. That's just my personal opinion. We won't get deep into it. All I'm trying to say is that it just seems that in society, it's you can do some bad as long as the good you does outweighs the bad, at least in terms of climbing the social ladder or being valued in society, right? And conversely, you can not do a lot of bad, but the fact that you don't do any good either, you're just not heard. So if I tweet right now, it's the most valuable tweet in the world because I haven't done anything prior. No one's going to watch. No one's going to listen. I have no voice. Just reality. I'm not putting myself down there. So you have to at least commend these people for taking that risk. They're humans. They make mistakes. Some of them make a lot of mistakes. But for all the people out there commenting anonymously, I would say, okay, you go do it then. You go do it then. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I respect you.
Really?
Yeah, because you're doing it. You're putting yourself out there. You're taking a risk. I told you in DM, and I can even say it here publicly,
sure.
15 years ago, I was a very different me. I was also living in a different society where aggression was just something that you came across almost daily. It's why I left West Sydney, bro. I mean, you go to the gym there, you feel it. You walk inside the gym, and if you're in Auburn or in Maryland, it just feels tense. People are looking at you. I'm not going to say who. All right, I don't need this beef, bro. Not again.
Yeah, let's not. Though you're probably fairly safe in Austria. I don't know how much reach these people have.
Beautiful place. No, it's not that. It's just I don't want to go after a certain group or race, if you will. Okay,
right.
I'm not into that. And there's all sorts of races that get at least influenced by the community anyway. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Just this is why I say West Sydney. Now, anyone living there knows exactly what I'm talking about. All right, there's no debate on it. It's definitely in certain areas a hostile place, statistically and from observation. Okay, we know that a lot of what happens there doesn't get reported anyway, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know. Just go there, have a trip, and you tell me what you think. Anyway, so some of these
I've never been to Western Australia, actually.
Western Sydney.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Though you did come from Western Australia, right?
Born in Perth, and then I moved over to West Sydney.
Sorry, my bad. Right. Carry on. Sorry. You mentioned risk.
You pretty much have to be on guard. So put it this way. Over here, I walk with my AirPods on. No worries.
Yeah.
Over there, in certain areas, I don't recommend doing that because it doesn't matter how good of a person you are. You might get approached, and this is where what I was saying before was relevant. This is the sort of area where maybe you want to consider certain combat skills and certain preventative techniques. All right, let's not get back into that. But what I meant to say is that these areas are hostile. I don't even know where we started with this, actually. I don't even know the point
just
of it.
how I took a risk.
Oh, yeah, you took a risk.
So
if that was me 15 years ago and I was kind of in that zone,
yeah,
I would probably had a different response. Now, I don't know about a video made about me warranting a violent response. I don't think I've ever been like that, to be fair with you. But maybe if I saw you on the street on a bad day and I was having a drink. By the way, I don't drink or smoke or take anabolic steroids anymore. But when I was young, I did a lot of it because it was very fun. but definitely when you drink, your inhibitions are lower. So yeah, maybe it could have been dangerous for you doing that back then. Maybe. I don't know. And I'll say that
You might have heard me on a bad day.
It's possible. As a 22-year-old Daniel, if someone attacked me and, all these people ridiculed me, and at the time, when you're young, and maybe it's something to do with your frontal cortex, it's not fully developed, this ego that you have as a young man, at least in my type of circle or for me, it's both a plus and a negative. It drives you, it fuels you to succeed, because you are getting a lot of benefits and success out of this ego. But then there's obviously, when the ego goes too far, it becomes your detriment. And so many people in jail, I even have 2 friends in jail actually at the moment, all right? One of them not convicted, but the other is, he even told me, he goes, you sit there for a few years and you think, fuck, one split decision and I've just lost a few years. Like it's that's hard to sit with, man. I'm so lucky, that I didn't go a little further. Now I have my thoughts about this as to how drugs, even anabolic steroids, can really push people over the edge of actually the difference between thinking about it, talking about it, and doing it.
You are on TRT though, just to clarify.
I'm on TRT.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? I think that this
sure, why not?
scenario, this conversation around using violence or not, it's just getting a bit boring. I think the guys understand what I'm talking about. Agree with me, don't. We'll move on to something a little bit more productive and I think helpful. I think if I'm going to have this podcast, let's make a few minutes where I can help someone then.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah? Okay. So for me, if someone goes, all right, Daniel, what's your expertise if you had to talk about it? I'd say, well, it's probably helping people with hormone replacement therapy. That's something that I've done for years, and I've obviously also, conversed with certain experts. Do you have time there, by the way?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just turning my microphone up. Can you hear me better now?
I can hear. It's okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism, ASIH, is a condition where after you stop using anabolic steroids, your HPTA is not back online. So you're no longer producing endogenous or natural testosterone any longer. So the solution, which is imperfect, is to use a dose of testosterone that relieves symptoms, which is also within the physiological range. Now, I put in air quotes the physiological range for a reason.
Yes. So, just for clarification, when you refer to the HPTA, when you talk about the HPTA, you refer to the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, which is basically a hormonal regulation system. Well, it regulates. Well, anyway, we won't go into that, but yeah. It can shut down if you've abused super physiological amounts of anabolic androgenic steroids in the past. And as you pointed out, sometimes you never get that natural production back after you take that plunge. How about you? Did you ever suffer with that? AAS-induced hypogonadism? Yeah, so I'm just sorry, man. This door, so sorry. If someone's bringing it, right. Give me a second. You're fine.
What I've done. Oh, they're doing it again. So, all these Amazon deliveries for my baby.
Aw, she's a baby. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's only 3 or 4 months now.
Congratulations. My God, that's awesome. You must be so happy. That's such good news.
Yeah, it changes you. It does. For the better, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back. I think it's helpful to use as plain language as possible. Because although I think the terminology is helpful for the intermediates, when it comes to explaining it to the normie, I'm going to use language that could be taken out of context. Like when I say natural, I know where someone could criticize that, but let's try not to be nerds and try and just understand what I'm saying. If you can understand it, I think it helps to use plain language. So
I agree.
With my case,
I agree 100%. Yeah.
You agree? Okay.
Yeah.
With my case, countless others, in my experience, it's 50-50. You use anabolic steroids, especially for an extended period of time, a year, several years even. You come off, no matter what you do, even with PCT, it either doesn't come back 100% or you get what's known as partial recovery.
PCT
No one
stands
knows-
for post-cycle therapy, and that includes measures such as Clomid, HCG, which are basically hormones or substance. It's a way to kick your natural hormone production back to what it was, right?
And it does in some.
Yeah.
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 So the level of heterogeneity, which means like the difference between one person to the next, it's really hard to determine.
Yep.
What most people will have. So, for example, there are people that use anabolic steroids, get their wife pregnant while using them. People that do one cycle, it never comes back. And then I got a friend, he went to jail and he was using for years. He went there, he breached this is a crazy story, right? He breached a restraining order. Like he had a restraining order on him, but then him and the girl, right, they got back together while this restraining order was on him, and he texted her happy birthday, and that text sent him to jail. I mean, this is a judicial system in Australia, right? So because you can't communicate at all, right, with these VROs, you know what it's like. He went to jail.
Not personally. I've never had
the reason I said that is because when I keep saying a friend in jail, it's like it sounds like I have all these bad criminal friends.
Right.
If that's a bad crime to you, then I don't know, I can't help you. But anyway,
I don't know the context, so I can't really comment.
Yeah, they got back together, and he texted her happy birthday. He went to jail for 6 months. But the interesting part about this was that he was using steroids for years up until this point. And then he come off, and I'm talking to him on the phone. I'm like, so, like, how's your hormone libido? He's like, oh, I'm fine. But what do you mean? The moment he came off, his natural testosterone was back. No PCT, nothing. Now, I had started after that.
Lucky guy.
Yeah, but not that lucky. I see it quite often. Guys coming off cold turkey. So I did a bit of a deep dive into it. I asked Broderick. I asked other people that have more anecdote than me. And it's a lot of guys. A lot of the old guys, Jay Cutler is one of them. He would just come off cold turkey. And he even says, he goes, no, I felt no different on or off. So all I'm trying to say is it's very different from person to person, which is where it can get people into trouble. So you really have to just consider your own situation. And this is where I do think the whole stay natural can be dangerous for some people. Some people, even if they haven't used anabolic steroids, can have suboptimal or low testosterone for a variety of other reasons. All right. There can be adenomas near the pituitary. You can be kicked in the nuts. I know
probably treat the adenomas before considering anabolics, though.
Yes, but in certain cases, there's long-term damage because of that.
Sure,
even though
absolutely.
It's quite rare. Getting kicked in the nuts, certain congenital issues, and even past use of other drugs or other medications can cause this low testosterone. So imagine you're left in this box where your ethics has always been, I just want to stay natural. But to have this testosterone therapy could be helpful for you. That's where I find...
That's not me, by the way. I'm not some kind of natty absolutist. I come at it the same way you come at other matters, which is a kind of cost-benefit analysis. For some people, absolutely. Like in many of the circumstances that you brought up, it is 100% the rational decision in terms of this is a net benefit to the person's life to get on a replacement dose of testosterone, let's say, and annul the natty card. Although I would argue that for probably most people, it is not a net benefit.
It's an imperfect solution. So anytime you add medication, the only thing you're guaranteed to get is some form of side effect. Whether you notice it or not, it's always an imperfect solution when you fuck with homeostasis or when you fuck with biology, all right? It's just the way it is. It's the way it is in medicine. It doesn't mean you don't take the antibiotic when you have an infection, but just be mindful. Side effect free is just not a reality. And it's no different with TRT, okay? So when it comes to So when it comes to TRT, all right, you're replacing the testosterone that you would have had, all right, as close as possible. But because it comes from an exogenous source, if you're looking to replicate a blood test that you had when you were natural, that is the wrong way to go about it, because they don't work in terms of symptom resolution, which is all you're after. exactly the same. You may need to have a higher dose, all right, or a higher blood work number of testosterone to have the symptom resolution because of the way that exogenous testosterone works compared to endogenous testosterone.
Right,
I'll
with
give
like
you
the
an example.
highs and the lows and everything. And does that like depend on the ester length, like enanthate, cypionate, acetate, that sort of thing?
Even if, all right, you mimicked as close as possible the natural rhythms of testosterone, which is daily over that 24-hour period, up and down. Let's say you had, even propionate wouldn't do it, but let's say you found an ester to do it to the T. Because it's exogenous and we don't know why, it doesn't work as efficiently. Now, there's a good experiment that you can actually conduct to see this, and I've done it. When I had to get my fertility back to get my wife pregnant, I used what's known as HCG. Now, I'm butchering the language. It's wrong.
That's
but it mimics LH, luteinizing hormone. Then you take exogenous FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and that actually produces almost natural testosterone because it comes from the testicles rather than exogenous testosterone comes directly through the bloodstream, and you skip that testicular or intratesticular testosterone, which is needed for spermatogenesis, which is why you get your fertility back. Now, when I do that, my hematocrit, my hemoglobin, even symptom resolution actually happens at a lower testosterone level. So with exogenous testosterone, in order for me to have healthy hemoglobin, right, because you need healthy hemoglobin to, perform life. Anemia is not a good condition to have. You might need more. Here's where it gets even more complicated. There's Alex Hormozy, and I've seen people rip into this guy over and over. But if you believe me, cool. If you don't, whatever. I know the guy that prescribes Alex Hormozy, and he does take 75 milligrams of testosterone a week. It could be a lie. I don't know. I believe him. Why? I have a friend that also takes 60 milligrams of testosterone. All right? At least he did. His name is Mitchell Vicarage. Look him up. He used to be a bodybuilder in Perth. All right? Now he's a more holistic guy. He almost died of Crohn's disease. When he was taking TRT after he stopped his bodybuilding career, 60 milligrams of testosterone looked fantastic. Okay. Now, these cases are rare, I'll agree. The majority of people in that 100 to 150 milligram range. I take 150 milligrams, but there are cases where people actually need even more. They need 250 milligrams of testosterone because at the end of the day, you're looking for symptom resolution. This is not a battle of muscularity here. I'm talking about your mental health, your bone health, your heart health, your blood pressure, erectile dysfunction, things that have almost nothing to do with vanity.
Yeah. I would argue that testosterone replacement can let you do things that you can't as a natural in the form of overall look, physique. I'll give you an example. If I were to cut down to 5% body fat, my testosterone levels would plummet. My natural production would crash. But then if I were to add in a replacement dose, then I could maintain a healthy hormonal state, testosterone-wise, at 5% body fat. So you can kind of, there is a kind of, I think, a sneaky way to use TRT doses to look way better than you otherwise, or not better, but more, because that's subjective, but like a bodybuilder-like than you otherwise would had you just stayed lifetime natty. Do you know what I mean?
100%, not just in that case. So if I have a bad sleep, my testosterone stays the same. If I have microplastic, my testosterone is the same. If I eat something wrong, testosterone is the same. There's the advantage. However, I hate to break it to people outside of these scenarios that you should be avoiding anyway, because it doesn't just mean, all right, I'm taking testosterone, I'm not going to sleep. Outside of that, or outside of getting down to very low body fat levels, it's not what you think it is. I mean, and I just want to say, if you do think it matters that much, well, try it. You're not going to be that impressed. And the reason I say that is because there's a reason why people take 10, 20 times the amount of testosterone than a natural would produce when they're bodybuilders, because the lower doses for most people don't work, or they don't give you what you think. It's just simply not enough. Now, when you are in that community where it's a pissing contest about how much muscle I can get naturally or how much I can get on a low dose, I don't know how to talk to those people, because from the world that I'm coming from, it's about symptom resolution to help this person with their issues of well-being. How much muscle you can gain if you're natural or not, I don't know. Even a case like me, because I've used anabolic steroids in the past, there's also the case that even if I came off completely natural, I still could have more muscle because of the previous use.
Yeah, like anabolics cause permanent changes in muscle that natty training alone just doesn't. Stuff like increased myonuclear number, maybe fiber cell number, probably some epigenetic changes. You would agree with me that the whole I've been off for 2 years, therefore I'm natural again thing is nonsense. Yeah. If you've done the blast from the past, so to speak, then you have a perennial advantage.
Absolutely. So guys, if it's an ethics thing and you want to stay natural, stay natural. But if it's a sport-related thing and you feel like you need anabolic steroids to win a bodybuilding competition, I mean, if you love it that much, I mean, just go take the steroids.
Yeah.
Do your research, obviously. But
when I say advantage, I mean within the parameters of competitive bodybuilding. I don't mean anything beyond that. Or just in muscle mass and competitive bodybuilding. That's all I meant.
There could be other advantages for TRT, though, that are not to do with bodybuilding. So testosterone itself is very pro-health in the physiological range. So here's another example. If I did have a bad sleep due to stress or whatever, like you made a hit piece on me and I didn't sleep well that night, which I didn't, my insulin sensitivity is something that, I mean, it's quite easy to measure. That can get real messed up. All right, especially in the presence of low testosterone, which is why a lot of diabetics also have low testosterone and they're not sure what it is, whether it's the chicken or the egg. But when people get on TRT, their parameters with regards to insulin sensitivity and blood glucose improve. So this is a life or death thing, diabetes, and there are other potential advantages if you have issues in that specific area. Okay, so muscle is one, anemia is another, which is one of the use cases of anabolic steroids. There's muscle. So if you have a muscle wasting disease, I had Nelson Virgil on, who is, believe it or not, a gay man who got HIV. Amazing story, by the way. 2 of his partners died in the AIDS epidemic. He's one of the advocates. It's crazy. His story is crazy, man. He's the owner of XL Mal. He used anabolic steroids as a health drug to help him not die. If not for anabolic steroids, he would have died, because the HIV or the AIDS, HIV, sorry, not AIDS, it's muscle wasting. So there are, specific use cases for all medicines, and I really don't like the debate of natural or not. You never really know anyway. Even if my blood work came back, made me look like a natural, let's say you checked certain parameters, I mean, you just don't know what my past was. So
yeah, I mean, your test was like 35 nanomoles per liter, which is like 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. So the physiological range, 300 to 900. So you're kind of cruising at the very. I mean, it's within the realm of what, like the most testosteronous natural could theoretically produce. I mean, that's kind of where you are. I ask when your physique genetics are so manifestly as good as they are, why'd you even take the anabolics in the first place?
Good question. So I should state how much I still do love watching bodybuilding. Now, for me, I'm not saying anything about the smaller weight categories. For me, growing up, we only had the open. There was no classic, no physique, and I just loved it. I still love it, but I like watching it, and I don't want to be it because the side effects for me were just not worth it. Now, if I could take anabolic steroids, someone gave me a magic button I could push. I could take anabolic steroids, none of the side effects. I would pursue bodybuilding. I just love I don't know what's not to love about it. I suppose when people are like, what the hell is that? What do you get out of it? I'm thinking, are you serious, bro? Do I have to explain it? It's awesome. Like I love eating, so I'm a real foodie. You know, I'm European, so you get to eat more. I love training. I love all sports. You can see something in the mirror. You're gaining this. I mean, it's a wild sport / hobby, whatever you want to call it. And I just think, I mean, the natural bodybuilding is just not interesting to me. Either is the physique, which is enhanced. I'm starting to appreciate classic, but it opens where it's at for me, and that's just it.
You're all about the freaks.
You're like but there was a point. There was an inflection point where they started to kind of look a little less aesthetic. I think that might have been Jay Ronnie at one point, but anything up until that, man, I mean,
like
Wheeler,
Sean Roden, all those guys. Yeah, sorry, not Sean Roden. Yes, I was thinking of Sean Ray. Yeah,
him too.
Yeah, because he was 90s.
He was 90s.
Sean Roden, he was 47 when he died. I mean, that's tragic. Am I right? 47?
Something along those lines, bro. Maybe even earlier. Cedric McMillan. There's a whole list of them.
Yeah, I know. Oh, 46, even younger. My God, I just had to Google it. Oh, that's tragic. That is true. Yeah, but you're okay health-wise, right? I mean, you no health scares as far as you're aware.
I did have a health scare.
Really?
Yeah, that's why I stopped.
Right.
I spoke about this on my podcast, actually.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of people have these. It's very common. They're called PVCs, basically heart palpitations.
Right.
And anabolic steroids, because they mess with something in certain people with the channeling of the heart. Did a really good podcast with Dr. Andrew Winging on that. For me, it would make the PVCs or the heart palpitations so frequent that it actually did start to weaken the heart. So you can actually get so many of them in the day that they do become detrimental to the heart. And that was a direct result of using anabolic steroids. I obviously diagnosed that on EKG, etc. I did an echocardio. I did that in 2022. I've been meaning to get one for years, but I thought, let's do it. I have 1 millimeter of LVH, which is left ventricular hypertrophy. From what the cardiologist said, he goes, for an athlete, that's considered normal athlete's heart. I had some other opinions, but no major issues with the structure of the heart, but the channeling of the heart when I used steroids, it was the PVCs. Now, with those, they weren't the most show-stopping thing, all right?
Right.
For me, it came out of nowhere, bro. And I don't know which drug, how, where, what. But one day, I just got a panic attack. I remember it perfectly, where I was, everything. I was in the gym on the treadmill. I was talking to one of the members. And out of nowhere, my heart just started going real fast, breathing heavy, and I just had a panic attack. At the time, back then, having a panic attack, yeah, bro, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Hate them.
Was it your first and only?
No, it wasn't my only.
Oh, no.
No, I had a few after the fact. Now,
fortunately, I've never had one. I count my lucky blessings because, you know, I've heard about how much of a headache they are. Yeah.
And you probably won't if you just keep things pretty conservative. I mean, look, I'm not a mental health expert. I know people have panic attacks based on situational things. For me, it was just let's say that you use the word physiological or drug induced. Okay. So I've only had panic attacks related to drug use, nothing situational.
Were you taking a lot at the time?
It was actually not anabolic steroids that caused it, but an ancillary.
Right. Really?
Yep. And
whoa. That's crazy.
Not that crazy, apparently.
Right. So that's used to treat breast cancer because it prevents aromatization, right?
Yep.
So you take it to avoid gynecomastia and like excessive estrogen levels, right?
Yep. And I had prepubescent gynecomastia. So I'll tell you guys a bit of a story about my physique journey quickly. So when I was young, I was obese. And if you're obese, all right, as you're coming into puberty, that excess estrogen coupled with IGF can cause in some teenagers actual gyno. Now, in my case, because I was so obese, the gyno stayed after the fact, even after I lost the weight. I had to have gyno surgery when I was 16 and 17 because they botched it. And that's where I learned about hormones in the first place. That got me into bodybuilding and even my first exposure to Lyle. It was that event. I wasn't really that interested in any other sport other than soccer at the time, which I still love. But the gym, it was after the weight loss, you're whatever it is, you're a teenager, you go to the gym, you take it more seriously. Now, I've been training since I was 14 because of my older brother, but not seriously until that event. So I had kind of been aware of the whole HRT thing, what hormones can do in terms of change your physiology since back then. Okay, but I used Arimidex, should say, overused Arimidex foolishly because of my fear of gyno coming back. So I took a dose that you shouldn't take. In fact, I needed no Arimidex, knowing what I know now at the time, and low estrogen or very low estrogen can cause these mental health and physical side effects. Sore joints, fatigue, erectile dysfunction, panic attacks, this kind of stuff, okay? So that was my first experience with the panic attack. But since then, your body sort of learns, right? So if you have a trauma, as they call it, that's almost just like learning. So if you came across a saber-toothed tiger, however many thousand years ago, the fact you get anxiety after it prepares you for next time. Don't go near the saber-toothed tiger. It's the same with these panic attacks. Once you have one, the biggest risk of having a panic attack is already having had one before. Like your body learns to get into this state of panic. And so after that, no matter what drug I tried, and by the way, I loved drugs when I was younger. I had nothing but positive experiences, partying, connecting. I loved marijuana, coming up with ideas. It was the best, right? I miss it. But I would even smoke marijuana. Then I get a panic attack. Anything, man. So I just got really turned off recreational use of anything in general since then. That was my main reason for stopping anabolics. It was the panic.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. That's so it was mainly psychological reasons that made you stop.
Yep. And I've heard since then, oh man, countless anecdotes, whether it's in my inbox or whatever, of people experiencing the same thing.
That's cool.
And just,
I've got about maybe another half hour. I'm getting a little bit tired. It's 10:30 where I am.
Man, I'm happy to end it when you want, but I'm also happy to continue. I'm enjoying it.
I'm loving this. I did have one question. It was about a claim. I don't know if you'd still stand by, but it was in terms of well, in your video, you claimed that a better way to solve a beef than making a video was to go at it until maybe someone's dead. Would you still stand by that? Like,
well,
better than the Israetel video would be to enter a potentially fatal physical altercation.
No, I don't know how I made that sound, but I wasn't serious about this particular instance. I was more trying to refer to many moons ago. I know I said 1,000 years, and then a few words came on there and were like, 1,000 years ago, there was still civilization. People were doing it this way. Like, I get that. I've studied history a bit. But what I meant to say was, let's say you've got two opposing forces, and all they do is debate to no end, all right? And one of the forces you feel is a toxic force in society. Well, in nature, if you get rid of that force, I mean, they shut up. Do you know what I mean? Now, obviously, in this scenario, I don't mean that. But years ago, all right, I don't know how many years you want to say, it was a lot more commonplace, at least from what I've been taught, right? In tribal communities, when someone was constantly considered toxic to the tribe, there were scenarios where they weren't just banished, but even killed. I think that no one's disagreeing with that. Now, this situation wouldn't be one of those. But let's say someone is, I don't know, constantly shaving rocks into the food and poisoning people or doing something. I mean, those people, it's probably a good thing that they're not only banished, but
executed.
Executed. That's all. I mean, I shouldn't have said it like that. I can't even remember. I can't remember how I said it.
It's all right. It's yeah. All right. Good. Just wanted to ask about that because I found that really funny when I watched your video. Like, surely he doesn't actually. So and sure enough, you contextually you wouldn't really stand by that. You don't actually think that Lyle and I should get in a ring with Mike.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It would be funny. I don't deny that, but maybe
I do that. To me, like, you know who I saw? Maybe you watch it. Vegan Games. You know Vegan Games? I saw he commented. Because you put him on the video, then he commented on the thing. And I saw years ago, like, he would make these videos about, and I don't know if he's still like this. Maybe he's, like, calmed down. But this video, from what I can remember, he was, I don't know, telling people they were bad people or disgusting for eating meat. Is he still like that or nah?
I think he is. I mean, he'll undoubtedly, he'll receive word that he's been brought up so he can clarify in the comments. But no, he doesn't like meat eaters. He's adamant about that.
But you're
or meat eating, rather. I think, he might make rare exceptions for particular outstanding meat eaters. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, then I don't really have much negative to comment. Then I just thought that he thought if you're a meat eater, you're a bad person, and I just.
He probably has a more nuanced view. Like, it is something that tips the scale toward making you a worse person. But a meat eater or someone who's done a few bad things, as perhaps you would contend with Mike Van Wyck, just that alone doesn't make them on the net balance a bad or unethical, immoral person. They can still have outstanding positive contributions in other fields that sort of balance, tip the scales. I hope you know what I'm. Yeah, I think he would say that. I don't know for sure, but that's conjecture. But I think that's likely.
Yeah, for sure. Now, then I don't really have much to say, but I did see he commented, and when you say about like a boxing match, I saw that he was making a few videos back in the day about, I don't know, this person's a bitch, this is happening, but I get in the ring with him.
He's a unit, though. He's like 6'3", and I think he's north of. Yeah, he's a heavy, big guy. Benched 410 that's he's no joke.
He's no joke.
Yeah, people gave him so much shit back in the day. Oh, you're green and scrawny, and I was thinking, he's 6'3". His arms are like insane, and he's a freaking natty vegan. Look, when you're hostile, people try to take you down a peg. You've seen that play out. Like, it didn't matter how he actually looked. What mattered was that people wanted to criticize him, and they were manufacturing reasons not to like him. Like, you're small and weak and this and that, and this isn't to say that all of the criticism was just that, but yeah, I hope you know what I'm saying there.
Yeah, no, actually, there's this guy, I followed him before. I don't know what happened. When I came off Instagram, I lost him. But he's a jacked vegan, bro, and I know he is. There's heaps of them. I don't know where that started. Like, I don't see why you couldn't be a jacked vegan. You might need, based on what the research shows, is that you might need more protein because it's less bioavailable or whatever. But this lad in particular, I think he's Venezuelan. Man, he's got a great physique, and he's a vegan. I don't know whether he's a drug user or not, but it doesn't matter. Like, I don't see why you couldn't be a jacked vegan. To me,
it's been done before.
yeah. So that would, because he's pretty popular. I don't know. Has he got any fight experience or something like that? Because then it'd be hard. He's big. Because I'm only and
I don't know. We should make this happen. Wouldn't that be great? You getting in the ring with Richard, Vegan Gains, battling it out.
Yeah, I'd do it.
The two
I'd do it.
Titans.
Yeah,
That
I'd do
would be cool. I don't know though. It's
it. Give me a
it'd be
reason
hard
to go train
organize.
again, bro. Give me some motivation to go train again.
But
Dude,
how's
I'm
it
not
gonna like
popular enough.
logistically? I mean, he's in Canada, I believe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be tricky to set up, but
Does he have
certainly
kids?
would be. Does Richard have? I mean, he has animals. I mean, I heard that he got a divorce just
I don't know.
recently, so he was married for a long time to this this woman named Jasmine. I mean, I grew up watching Richard in high school. You know, like I was
Yeah,
watching
same.
his videos back in
Well,
2015. He was one of the first fitness YouTubers I really encountered. I just found him so entertaining. And I remember the videos he was posting when I was in year 12. You know, I was doing VC. I'd turn on my computer after school, go on YouTube. Oh, who's this? He's with this young, this Jasmine girl. And now unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, I don't know the situation, but they've split up. So
yeah, right. No, I'd hate to actually be that popular, eh? Now that I think about it, it's like, see how much people know about you when you get that popular?
right, yeah. I mean, you're spot on. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe I know that about someone I've never actually met.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, fuck, you know that about him? That's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
I don't, because I'm not popular, I haven't considered it. But I guess if you continue to make controversial things, and then maybe you did a boxing match or something, I mean, you're going to get more popular, I guess.
Mm.
Aren't you?
Is that what you want, Daniel? Do you want to get all popular from a boxing? Hey, you could. There's a lot of money to be made in that. Hey, like all those celebrity boxing matches. I mean, that is so insane to me. That Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
MMA.
Yeah.
Not boxing, MMA.
Right. Any reason?
It's just probably more realistic for how it would be in the street. I mean, it's funny because in the street, I saw a commentator who was like, a 15-year-old in Somalia would use a gun or a weapon. I'm like, yeah, so you should. Like, you shouldn't. If you are truly under threat and you're protecting yourself, the first thing I do is look for a weapon. I'm not looking to be the hero, because I actually did this in the Mike Van Wyck video.
Yeah.
When two guys that large are scrapping on the street, like 250, 300 pounds, because they're not fight trained, at least I don't think they are. All right, maybe they've got as much experience as me, like a little.
Yeah.
Man, when you're striking, there's a lot of luck involved. There's athleticism and luck. It's very different to if you're a wrestler. If you're a wrestler and the other person has no fight experience and you're of similar size, even if you're not, like if you're a really good wrestler, you're going to take down the bigger guy. He's finished. Like, it's very unlikely that person is going to win. So I guess with MMA, it's a little bit more realistic. But again, I don't think I'm popular enough. So.
Oh, well. I feel that the makings are there of someone with future popularity in you.
Well, that's kind of you, but I don't know if it'll go that way, because as my daughter gets older, I'm just every day you're just growing to want to spend more and more time with her.
Oh, I feel that I should let you go now that you've stated that. I don't want to keep you, because that's
No. I don't get me wrong. I still spend a lot of time working, and to me, this is very important to me. I don't do anything that's not important to me. It's got nothing to do with how I think people will perceive me. This is important for me to the exercise of being interviewed. I think it's valuable.
Right.
And then see if we can find some common ground. So maybe some people will watch it. Maybe a lot of people don't even watch this. I don't know. But if they do, hopefully they see another side to me. Maybe they agree with some things, maybe they don't. But I did wish that I'd spoke more of the things that I could speak with authority on. I know I keep digressing, which I shouldn't have, but it would have been to help people with HRT. And strangely, even though it can be cringe sometimes, finance as well. So.
That's not cringe in the least.
people don't like it, I think, because the whole how to get rich, I don't know, niche. There is that kind of crypto bro, just make $10,000 overnight stuff. It's definitely not the sort of videos I make, which is probably why they don't get many views. Because a lot of my views are like, yeah, you buy this one thing and you've got to wait 10 years, unfortunately. And no one wants to hear that.
Yeah. No,
But
I should probably take more of an interest in that sort of. It's a bit of a blind spot, so to speak. All
how
of
old
that
are you now?
kind of 25.
Still young, bro. See, I'm 10 years older than you. I mean, so much has happened in 10 years. And I guess it matters when it matters to you. So for me, my financial situation matters a lot because of my daughter, and supporting not only my daughter and my wife, but also her parents as well, which I took them from the Ukraine war. So it's kind of, there's a few dependents, if you will. So it really does matter whether I make money or not, because it's not just me anymore. So even though I've been interested in it for years, and I love small, medium enterprise, I love finance and macroeconomics and stuff, it's just genuinely interesting to me. I guess it just matters a lot now.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately, I'm sort of reaching the point where I may. It's funny. It may not matter to me as such, but I've definitely reached the point where I feel that it should, if that makes sense. Like, whereas before then it didn't even cross my mind. Like, I wanted to pursue philosophy academically, but I don't know. I just feel that that's untenable, because I started thinking about job security, wages, career opportunities, and philosophy kind of fails according to those metrics. So I thought, oh, what can I do? What can I do, Daniel? And I go, okay, maybe I do law. So that's where I'm at now.
I love your decision, man. I mean, look, I don't want to be the moral police. Do whatever you want to do in life, to the lads listening. But I can say, for me at least, having extra cash has really helped my satisfaction in life and the people around me.
Sure.
My health.
Yeah. Money can't buy happiness, but it can definitely fund the search, right?
And I'd rather be unhappy with money than unhappy without money.
Okay, yeah, why not?
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't see it as a bad thing, right? So, I actually made a video about what I would do if I could do it all again. And because I got into all these small, medium enterprises, oh man, the list of failures is countless, until I found the tattoo shop over there in Southeast Asia. But if I could do it all again, I wished I had just got a good job, whether it's doctor, lawyer, accountant, architect, engineer, and then just put 33% away into index fund investing or the bleeding edge of technology, which I love the most, so AI, robotics, crypto, etc., or some sort of bundle of the two, and just forgot I even had it, and then looked at my wallet in 15 years and then be done with it. Because compound interest over 15 years beats 90+% of these small businesses. And I'm not saying people shouldn't go out there and do something and change the world, but if you don't have that thing, if you don't have that passion, which I can safely say I don't have, I wish I would have just gone back, got a good job, lawyer's a great one, put away 33% every week, doesn't matter. How I got to get that 33% doesn't matter. Live in my mom's basement, only eat certain foods, but 33% of my income is going to that compounding interest fund. That's all I would have done. And that's kind of one of my videos I made. But yeah, it's not going to get many views because it's not very sexy, is it? To say that.
Well, this podcast might get more views. I mean, people will come in with their pitchforks, let's make fun of Daniel and his tattoos, and then they'll arrive at this timestamp and go, hey, he's talking facts. He's that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality is that making money is hard, but there is an almost surefire way of getting at least sort of wealthy, and that's not building but investing in someone else's build. It sounds so it sounds like a cop-out, right? Instead of building something of your own, you're investing in a stock or you're investing in an ETF. But if you just care more about getting the money itself in an ethical way and it's good for your friends and family, then it's a pretty tried and trusted thing, isn't it?
Yeah. In as much as I know anything about investing, your advice sounds solid to me.
It's hard to criticize because of the success of these ETFs over time. And now, thankfully, because I was talking about Bitcoin in 2018 on the Broderick podcast, and I used to get a few pokes. I still do now, but I think to myself now, it's like, what do you want me to say? I mean, it's been successful. It's hard to criticize. I mean, when you invest $1,000 in something and now it's $100,000, I mean, you're not really caring about what anyone else says. You're happy about it. Now,
were you an early investor?
Depends on how early you mean, but my first Bitcoin was $500 after fees, so you could say.
Oh my goodness me!
Yeah,
early enough for me. So I have a friend, Daniel, in high school. He's gone on to do he's doing a master's in maths right now, but he he said to me, oh, there's this currency, it's called Bitcoin. He found out about it through 4chan, and he goes, my parents won't let me buy it, but whatever, poor guy. If only he had bought it, right? But anyway,
coulda, shoulda, woulda. I wish I didn't sell a lot of it on the way out.
Right? It just comes back to that. Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
But for those that have the kind of moral compass around making money in certain ways, I think if they spent 1,000 hours on Bitcoin, which I don't think any of the negative commenters ever do, but let's say you did. Let's say you were keeping an open mind to this face tattoo guy and you're going to spend 1,000 hours on Bitcoin. I would bet by the end of that 1,000 hours, you would actually realize that you do come for the greed with Bitcoin, but you stayed for the revolution. And coming for the greed, the number go up, is actually the mechanism, the market mechanism that attracts people to stay for what Bitcoin stands for, because Bitcoin actually stands for freedom. It's anti-fiat.
What do you mean by the revolution?
The revolution is such that with fiat currency, which is controlled by a central organization, can print at will fiat currency to fund anything. And in this case, in this century, it's wars. You cannot fund wars if you can't print money endlessly. And if you do your R&D over time, Keynesian economics, just put that into Google. Spend 100 hours. You got to spend the time, guys. You'll see that if you're going to call anything evil, and I don't like to use that word lightly, it would be fiat currency. Because wherever there is profit and a central force, there will likely be corruption. And Bitcoin is the antithesis to that. It's very odd to me that so many freedom fighters or people that are pro freedom of speech and want a fair world would actually even go against Bitcoin. I mean, it's strange to me, but I guess it's because they're ignorant, they're uninformed, and that's okay with me. Because look, bro, people don't have the time to spend 1,000 hours. They got families to feed. They got other shit to do. But I would just say, look, before you comment, maybe be at least somewhat informed. I'm guilty of it too. I've trolled before, but I'm more conscious of it these days, that's for sure, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. Because funding wars with fiat currency, which is actually killing innocent people, that's pretty serious to me. And if I can invest in Bitcoin, that's $1 away from supporting that fiat system. Yeah. Even though I still need it on a daily basis, you can't completely, live on an island and, wash your face with the sand from the river, but it's just one step towards freedom. So, the whole Trump thing came up, and obviously you can't agree with everything the man says, but it's hard to say that him being a pro-crypto president is a bad thing. I mean, less regulation, less government, more freedom to innovate. For me, that's a better world.
Mm. Yeah, just as long as he doesn't do one of those rug pull, schemes. You would obviously know all about those. Like,
Good that you bring that up. When
yeah,
people criticize crypto, I usually know they're uninformed because there is a big difference between crypto, the broad category, and Bitcoin. So
yeah.
I'll
Explain.
just okay. So with crypto, all right, there's only one Bitcoin. There's only one cryptocurrency that started from an anonymous to start off with. So there was no social influence. No one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto was it a group, one person? No one knows. That's the first thing. All right. The second thing is that now it's sufficiently decentralized. All right. The third thing is that these other altcoins, all right, at least most of them, they are not like Bitcoin in the sense that they have a supply that is capped. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. With Ethereum, you actually can increase the supply. So it's more similar to fiat currency than people think. Okay. And then because they don't have the market cap that Bitcoin has, and they are a little bit more complicated with what they can do, because they're trying to essentially be solutions to create dApps or dApplications. The fact is that Bitcoin's a very simple concept most people can understand. So crypto and Bitcoin, even though they're cryptocurrencies on the blockchain, doesn't necessarily mean the thesis of what they're trying to do in the world is similar. So it's kind of like saying,
Okay.
I hate medicine. Well, do you hate the antibiotics that save your children's life when they get an infection? Or do you really just hate that one vaccine that caused these problems because people didn't research it properly? So painting the I hate medicine with a broad brush, it doesn't really do you any favors for your life or anyone's life. And it's the same with crypto.
So you quite obviously do endorse some things that are unnatural or that didn't occur in nature, like cryptocurrencies, antibiotics for people who need them. I wanted to ask, what was with the kind of remark you made in passing about how you didn't like when a smaller guy critiques a bigger, stronger guy on the grounds that it's not natural?
Yeah, good point. Again, my misuse of language. Okay, so
Right.
I'll try and explain it the best way that I can. So at least as far as I know, this is the first time in history where we can have a communication from the computer screen, all right?
Yeah.
It's
I'm
very
sure we'd get
different.
along great in person, though. I reckon we would.
Yeah.
We'd shoot the shit,
But we're actually
You can shove
one
me
step
around a
further.
little too. I don't mind, just as long as you don't, Anyway.
But think about it though. Even this, I know who you are. You know who I am. All right. We're at least a little more intimate than how it is online, let's say. Okay. Now, online, you're getting a lot of people that are commenting things. I know you've seen my videos, bro. I don't know exactly who. Maybe there is some bad Dagestani guy in there commenting, but most of these guys are not going to say it to my face. I know that because I'm 35 and it doesn't happen that often. That's how I know. Okay. So that is what I meant by it's unnatural to say things online that you wouldn't say to someone in person. Okay. That's more what I meant by not natural. All right. So with this online influencer thing, and I've got to be honest with you, after this podcast, I don't think I'm going to pursue any of it. I think I'm going to take a step back. Yeah, it's been fun. I might make the odd video. Thankfully, I'm not that popular, but I don't know if it's for me. Honestly, I don't. I think there's better people for it. But that's a separate topic.
Geez.
We're here now.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that later.
We're here now. I feel that with this influencer thing, they forget some of our most innate, animalistic capabilities and our nature, because we are so protected from being online, and even in certain societies we're forgetting. So I've spent quite a lot of time in South America, in particular in Colombia. This is not even a conversation in some areas that they're having. They're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You don't even come into our neighborhood, let alone come up to me at the gym. To them, this is so foreign. They're like, what are you talking about? It's too dangerous. Don't do that. But this is Canada and this is Australia. We've got, police to protect us. But because of these layers, right, we're kind of losing a bit of that intimacy, and I'm just not sure it's a good thing this far.
Yeah,
So
I get you. I get you. So I guess a charitable interpretation of what you were arguing wasn't that it's natural, therefore it's bad. It was more just it's unnatural and it's bad, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
wish I had
and the
better words.
badness doesn't really have anything to do with the unnaturalness.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the conversation, the word natural itself, I think, is a bit of a weasel word, because all of this is nature unfolding, right?
yeah. In a way, it is a weird word. Like, what is nature? Is yeah, right. Yeah, we don't have to get into that, but this is. Yeah, anyway, well, it's all just a terminological kind of semantic dispute, but yeah, there is
Yeah,
definitely an argument that as you put it, what we're doing right now with our computers is nature unfolding. We're humans who, come from human ancestors, and we happen to do all of the. I mean, this is Anyway, I'm not going to labor the point, but yeah, sorry,
it's
go on,
hard.
Daniel.
Yeah, I don't even know how to elucidate. Like I said, I'm not a wordsmith, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I think most of the people that watch the video know what I'm talking about. When you get the straw man stuff, like, is gear natural? Like, come on, man. I think you know what I was talking about. That's actually what I meant by nerds. They'll pick things, and because of this like subjective use of language, even though they knew what you meant, they'll just argue the point.
Yeah,
you could
I would
say
call I think it is important to address the most charitable interpretation of someone else's argument, because it can be easy to just go, oh, here was this one word, and maybe I'm actually guilty of this. Maybe I could have, should have, coulda, woulda, shoulda, gone back and thought, no, hey, maybe what he was really trying to argue with a charitable interpretation was blah blah blah, but I don't know, I kind of just took your words as they were, if you know what I mean. But I understand now, based on what you're saying, that you did mean something else with a lot of the things you were saying.
Thank you, bro. And still, even though I didn't mean things so literally, the reason I took them down obviously says I wasn't that proud of it anyway. Even if a lot of it wasn't that serious, or a lot of the stuff I didn't take too seriously, I took it down for a reason. It's just not productive in the space. So if we think of a framework of what should be in the online space, we're getting content thrown at us on a daily basis. Do you really want to produce something that isn't productive? And I personally didn't think those two videos were, but that conversation with Yanushik about HPLC testing or purity testing for harm reduction, I love that podcast. I kept it there. And I wish if me and Lyle could ever reconcile one day, I would love to at least put that GLP podcast back, because I think it's fantastic. The information that he relayed, there was none of the Mike Israetel stuff in that podcast. It was very conducive to what I'd like to put out there. And that's what I mean by putting something out there that's productive or not. And that just wasn't productive for me. So I take it back.
Do you see? Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's pretty much it.
I just wanted to ask, though, on the topic of Lyle, do you see it from his perspective? Like, I mean, he does contend that Mike Israetel is basically a cancer on the fitness industry with his misleading advice and so on. I mean, he genuinely does believe that, and I think there is merit to his argument.
Okay, so Lyle will be watching this. So here's how I would. I'm not Lyle.
He might not. I mean, he hardly watches anything. He's told about things that he doesn't watch any of this. It's
part of how you get good at something, right? You just exclude the noise and just keep going, which is ironic because Mike Israetel is probably doing that also with the hit pieces on him, right? So I can see how many contradictions are in this podcast, and so many things will come up. Like, you said this, Daniel, but then you said that. I get it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the one to do any of that nonsense. Yeah.
If I was Lyle, I think to myself, all right, I've got more knowledge than most people here, maybe more than anyone. But can I do it in a way that doesn't make me come across as much of a dick, because there are scenarios where he does, and I don't think even he disagrees with that. But that could also appeal to some of his audience, or that niche, as we said. So again, it could be an advantage. But for me, I would, if I could do it from now, should have, could have, would have. If I was Lyle, I'd say, look, there's this popular guy, Mike Israetel. He says this. This is what I think. You're welcome to take your own opinions for it. But I'm not sure I'd go about it as, I don't know the words, you're much better with vocabulary, as mean. Okay, so that's the first thing I would do if I had to do it. All right, but then Lyle will say, you haven't seen all the stuff, Daniel, which I haven't. And Mike said a lot of hurtful things about Lyle. Now, that's an interesting one, because I've never been someone as popular as Lyle, so I don't know. How many hit pieces were there about Lyle over time? I don't know. I haven't seen it. But still, going forward, let's say in the very unlikely situation I get famous one day, which I don't think I will not be returning the favor. I know there are examples of people that don't, and I can name them. There's Lex Friedman, there's Andrew Huberman, there's Tim Ferriss. There's a lot of guys that they're very commendable. There's been a lot on these guys, and they don't bite back. These guys are far more popular than I think even both of these individuals. So someone can do it. These are the people that I would model if I could redo it again. I'm not saying I could, but that's how I'd like to do it. So I can understand Lyle is actually trying to help. He actually put it in an email to me, and I did think about it, but then he blocked me, so I couldn't reply, bro. So
Right.
it obviously does mean a lot to him, and he should continue. But I actually think that the way Lyle speaks, the way Lyle writes, he doesn't even have to mention the Mike Israetel name. People will listen just as well, if not better, because the people that like Mike now might not even hear out Lyle, because they're in that cult. They're in that Mike Israetel cult. But imagine they weren't beefing, then they stumbled across Lyle, and he started saying things and putting it in the way that Lyle does, because Lyle's very beautiful at the way he describes things for the normie. They might think, well, Mike Israetel said this, but I'm actually noticing what Lyle's saying is happening in my life. I might start listening to this Lyle guy more, because that's what tends to happen, right? You find someone on the internet, they're popular, you try a few things, you like them in the beginning, kind of like I did as well with Mike Israetel, and then you start trying it and you're like, hold on a second, I'm not sure about this anymore. And then you just naturally go to other people or voices of authority on the internet, and maybe you take some tidbits of Mike, which I have. There is a couple training videos that just give me tips on how to perform a certain exercise, and I like the way Mike Israetel put it. And that's actually how I found Mike Van Wyck. I don't know a lot about him, but he would make these videos. He did this one video, bro. Sorry, I'll let you speak. I'm rambling. But it was about the rear delts, and it helped me. It almost felt like I gained some muscle in the first time in 10 years. But anyway, he had this kind of swimming or breaststroke action, all right? How you kind of come out, forward, and around. And that just helped me connect with my rear delt. So those are the sorts of videos and snippets I find very productive in the community.
Yeah.
And I just wish all of them, I just wish all of them, including myself, even you, Mike Israetel, Mike Van Wyck, if it's about training, I think produce a training video.
Right.
It's getting so social now. I mean, Greg Deshaies' content is getting to the point sometimes where a lot of people watching it are not there for the fitness advice. I didn't. I mean, I come for the entertainment. But that's yeah.
I can clearly see though that in your view, it's a good thing for people to find Lyle and his work, though, right?
Yeah, you should. So let's remove all of this controversy and debate between Lyle, Mike. I mean, just watch his videos. All I can say is just watch.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, the controversy greatly facilitated the process of people finding Lyle and his work.
Did it?
So
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, dozens of people, well, way more than dozens, have found Lyle through that video. I mean, I don't know if you've been keeping up, but it's got north of 150,000 views now. There are 1,000 more members in his Facebook group now.
I'm glad that people have found Lyle in that way. I just feel like there could have been another way of them finding him. And it's kind of the same as if I want to make money, maybe I start an OnlyFans page tomorrow with my missus. We'll get a lot of attention. It's guaranteed, almost. Or, well, if they like it. But you know what I'm saying? There are ways to capture attention. And
I get that. I think we may come at things from a slightly different perspective insofar as I think we both think it's important that Lyle's good work reaches people. We both believe that it's important for misinformation to be dispelled. I think I'm a little bit more of a pragmatist in my approach. You are a little bit more of an idealist, by which I mean, I think you have to break a few eggs in order to make an omelet. You know what I mean? Whereas you would rather that the eggs not be broken, but then you don't get the omelet. You know, that's kind of the way I view it.
Yeah, no, it's a good analogy, but you know the problem is, bro, I know a lot of people have seen that video, but a lot of people are also still watching Dr. Mike Israetel too, and a lot of people go look at the comments that you can see online. Again, it's anonymous. Maybe it's some bot that Mike Israetel hired, right? You never really know when it comes to anonymous comments, right? That's why you can't value these views or comments too much, because like in the case of Lex Friedman lately, it was thought that there was like bots.
I agree, by the way. I agree. I'm not one for the appeal to the bandwagon. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
But this is just my opinion, by the way, so it's not necessarily the way Lyle's going to get, you know, to the masses again. But from what I know, the old Lyle, from what I can remember from his website and his books, there was none of that. There was none of that. But maybe obviously the beefs haven't transpired since then. But how good of a situation would it be, all right, if, I mean, this is never going to happen, but can you imagine they all sit down on a round table once again one day and they come to this, they put all their personal issues aside and they come to this conclusion, if it's possible, and then it's just wrapped up. I mean, I hope it wraps up at some point, because I do think there are better things to do than to continue to make a lot of the same. It's getting pretty reused. Like, I like Alex Hormozy, but a lot of his content lately is reused.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't keep up with him, but I know the general sentiment.
Yeah. There's only so much you can say about certain topics as well, unfortunately, right?
I'm totally with you. I mean, it would be great if they could reach some kind of agreement, but I think it would start with Mike doing something analogous to what you're doing now.
That's a shame. You know, if that's how it's going to be, I would say, Mike, mate, that's a shame, because I don't know, man. Yeah, I guess I'm different. You see, this is why I'm not the best person to comment on this stuff, because what I'm suggesting is so unlikely, and yeah, maybe in a couple of years it's just still ongoing. But I can say for sure in a couple of years I won't be watching it. I've already lost my algorithm is 3, 4, 5% fitness content. It's been reinvigorated after your video, but I lost interest in it personally.
Yeah. I mean, with good reason. With good reason. Yeah. I barely watch this stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit much. You know what I mean? I think. But I guess I don't even know what I said there, if that was productive or valuable. But all I can say is for myself, Lyle, I should have messaged myself, got my opinions. He can tell me to fuck off, but I just wish I did in private.
Yeah, all right. I get that.
That's all. I think we're coming to somewhat of a close. I guess I could conclude, just in case people scroll all the way to the end.
Why not?
Definitely, yeah. I'm definitely not condoning violence, although I do believe there are certain situations where like necessary force might be warranted.
As do I. Yeah, I'm. Yeah.
I apologize if I wasn't the person today to be able to convince you when that would be that case. The second thing is my choice of language is clearly either putting me up for criticism just for people to troll me, or I'm offending certain people, and it wasn't my intention. So if I continue to have that pattern, I'll just stop posting. Okay, so that's my contribution could be not posting anymore. Sort of like what people
My
say.
contribution in turn can be, hey guys, don't flood Daniel with a whole bunch of negative comments. He's been really gracious coming on here and just talking with me, so he doesn't deserve a dogpiling, I would say.
Thank you, bro. But I mean, again, it's a free market, and I believe in free markets. So do what you want at the end of the day. I'm sure there are worse things people could do to me. The third thing I would say is I wish I could have spoke more about the HRT stuff, because it's pretty important to me. I've definitely helped individuals over time, even to the point of preventing suicide, because hormone dysregulation, low hormone levels really can cause those serious side effects.
Oh yeah,
they can.
It's tragic, but you're right.
On the topic of anabolic steroids, this natural, not natural debate, I'm not the best person for it. I love bodybuilding and I love the open bodybuilding. So that unfortunately requires drugs. And I actually respect these individuals that go out there and pursue something that is so risky that they can die from it. And the chances of dying are actually quite high. So to me, that actually just makes me respect them even more. And the last I checked overall in the bodybuilding industry, I don't really see a lot of these guys promoting the use of anabolic steroids. I'm not seeing that. So if people are seeing that,
I mean, okay, I would counter that by saying that there is a kind of tacit endorsement whenever someone who's honest about using anabolics is just there making videos, earning lots of money, communicating, hey, with anabolics comes great physique, riches, beautiful women, fame, all of these desirable things. I mean, I think that itself is a kind of tacit, implicit endorsement of anabolic androgenic steroids. So even if it's not spoken, hey guys, this is great, it comes with the very success that any given influencer might have.
It may, if you're into those status games. So I saw a couple comments, people comparing me to that Wes Watson bloke. Now, again, I haven't seen everything on him, but I have seen a few clips. They come onto my YouTube shorts, and it's all about, got this watch, got this car. Now, I actually love cars, and I love luxury watches too, but to me, it's distasteful to present it that way. If you love your car and you're proud of your car, just drive it. I'm not sure about posting it or talking about it in that way, but at the same time, this is the way he earns a living. But this is again where I'm coming an idealist, like he said. It's just not something I would do. In fact, you'd have had a field day on my old Instagram, which I don't have anymore. And I had, I never made captions like, look at my car, my watch, but they were in the foreground in certain posts, and I took all that down because it's not the way that I want to appear. You can if you want.
You're not interested in showboating and all of that. Is that just like a maturity thing, or like what changed?
I think this is it's a truth, unfortunately. But guys, consider this, all right? When you have access to luxury cars, watches, etc., and you are obviously very driven, your libido is high, everything's running good, it is an easy way to attract a female online, right? So if these guys like Wes Watson, Andrew Tate, they do that stuff because it actually does work in their favor to attract these certain females. And it's very rare.
I like that you emphasize certain women.
And oftentimes the women thereafter, okay? So they are reinforced with their behaviors despite all the criticism because they're getting what they desire, okay? So if that is something you have access to, I mean, use what you got. At the end of the day, we're all flexing something, because in bodybuilding, we're flexing our body. A rich guy, he's flexing his money. The smart guy's flexing his intellectual ability. So you can do it any way that you want, but it's just not the way that I'm going to do it in the future. So I don't quite think
you don't need to anymore. Your kind of posts about your material assets were instrumental insofar as they attracted a suitable mate whom you found. So. Well, I actually don't know if your current wife was interested in any of that, or if you met her independently of any of your postings about your assets.
Okay, that's a good story. Not ironically, she's the total opposite. So I actually
Got
met
it.
her
Yeah.
in Bali, and in Bali you can't really flex these items. Like you can't drive around in certain cars. You're on a scooter. She couldn't
Yeah.
speak a word of English. So she couldn't speak a word of English, so I couldn't even communicate with her properly. And it just slowly matured over the years. So I love the fact that she found me in a situation where she wasn't able to see the material things that I had, or whether I had any money or not. Okay. Obviously, she can see that I've got a certain amount of financial maturity because I'm able to take her to dinner, or, you know, where I'm living or whatever. But in Bali, back then at least, having these luxury Miami mansions, they didn't really exist, at least not a lot of them. So it was cool. It's nice to meet a girl like that. And I would actually say if I could do it again and I was in Perth or Sydney and I had a certain car I watched, I'd love to have picked up a girl in a regular rental car and just see if we can, you know, get along with one another before seeing that. It's a hard one, because at the end of the day, if you have certain things, it doesn't necessarily mean you're an asshole. I genuinely love cars. My father, who doesn't have Instagram, is a car guy. I grew up with cars. I love cars. But if you drive a certain car, you could appear a certain way. And I think it's fine. But posting about it definitely leaves you up for more criticism, especially when you got the whole bam shaboodle. Imagine that. You got the face tattoo. You've got some cat delts. You've got a Mercedes. You're driving a certain watch. If you post that, guys, I mean, they're going to associate you with other characters you might not want to be associated with. Okay? It's just going to happen.
It could also be like a growth strategy on social media.
Yeah, personal brand. This is the thing. So if you look at my thumbnails, right? I spoke about this with my brother. He's like, I think you should improve your thumbnails, your face. Did you see that? Look, guys.
I like your thumbnails with you and the interviewee rather, and then the text in the middle. I like them. They're soulful, you know.
Thank you, but they're less clickable than the thumbnails.
I don't care. I don't care. I would rather sacrifice, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I'd rather preserve my soul and my integrity than get clicks.
Sure, but
I hate with a passion soulless content. Oh my god, it drives me up the wall.
Same, but I think that again, soul would be, I'd be being a nerd here. Like, what do you mean by soul? See, I'm doing it again, but
I could write a bloody dissertation about. In fact, I might. I actually wanted to, but anyway, what I mean by soul, I don't mean it in the philosophy context, like the animus, the animating force, the whatever, but I mean some kind of property that an artistic contribution might have, be it a video game or a YouTube video or a song or a movie. You know, it can have soul in very. I mean, the degree zero of soul, the most soulless thing I can think of is anything generated by AI. I grant that something soulless can be good. I mean, I've asked ChatGPT once to write a commercial for the hemorrhoid cream Anusol in the style of Friedrich Nietzsche. And it did a really, really good job. I was like, this is very impressive, but damn it, it's so soulless. Yes, it did everything right. Yes, it was funny, but I couldn't bring myself to like it.
Yeah. Man, that's actually a very interesting take. Are you a writer? Because I feel that the way you speak online here, it's very good. You don't do many like me. I do a lot of stuttering. Do you write as well?
Yes, I do. I mean, I my undergraduate degree was in philosophy, and sorry, I got my Latin wrong, I think. Hang on.
¿Hablas español o solo latín?
Moi, je parle français, and I speak English as well. I don't speak. My dad speaks Latin. Yeah. No. I think I meant animal, but anyway. where the hell were? Yeah, no. So I did my undergraduate degree in philosophy, and that entails a lot of writing. So that was a skill that I honed. Writing is great. It lets you organize your thoughts, and I don't think it's any coincidence that a lot of the best communicators were also, or are often also, the best writers.
I agree. I wish if I could go back, I'd have maybe made a forum and wrote instead of had this podcast, because you're able to reflect on what you wrote over and over. And I'm okay with that, because I can sit on something for a few days, go through my moods. Whereas when you're on screen like this, you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Hey, I mean, I'm embarrassed by a lot of my earlier written works, so you know, I mean, it's a continual process, you know.
No, I think you do
I'm
well,
like, oh
man.
my, thank you. Yeah, I look back
Especially
on some stuff, and so sorry, I won't interrupt you.
No, sorry, it's just our internet connection. That's why I'm
Yeah.
interrupting you as well. I apologize too. Yeah, happens. No, I think you'll do well. You speak a lot better than I thought, because admittedly, I didn't watch all your videos, but I like to prepare for a guest at least somewhat. I didn't have the time, right? But I do appreciate people that prepare before podcasts. That's why I had a lot of dialogue with you in Instagram. I didn't just make it short. I wanted to, hey, let's go back and forth. Let's prepare for this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Take it a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
I think it's worth doing. If you're going to have a conversation like this, you schedule it, at least prepare for it. You know, my favorite podcasters are not the people that from the last video people would guess. And Lex Friedman is actually one of my favorite podcasters, him and Tim Ferriss.
Right.
You know these lads?
Yeah, I know. I haven't watched many of Lex. I mean, I've seen a few clips of Lex Friedman. I saw this hilarious skit one of my friends sent me. It was like, I'm Lex Friedman, and today I'm interviewing. You've seen it, yeah. I'm interviewing my friend with whom I've shared lots of conversation, Satan.
I saw that one. I mean, there you go.
That was a good one.
You even have Lex Friedman getting, I don't know, parodies and.
But it was funny. It was so funny.
Pretty good. The thing is, you can say anything about someone if the accent is good. So if I say the best thing in the world, but if someone can impersonate me in a way that sounds like me but makes me look a bit more stupid, everyone's going to laugh. Like impersonations, Eddie Murphy back in Raw, he would do impersonations of gays, Michael Jackson, any minority, and the gays would be laughing. You know, Michael Jackson would be laughing because the impersonations were so good.
I know. I love the mimics, the imitators. It's a lot of fun. They're some of the best comics. Anyone who can play a character, put on a different accent, walk a funny different way, you know.
I agree. I lost you there. Where did you go?
Caricature, satire, impersonation. I think that's the lifeblood of comedy. And
I agree. I got your last 5 seconds there, but I lost about 30 seconds.
Oh, dang. I just said caricature, impersonation, satire. That's the lifeblood of comedy.
Yeah.
And that also and making fun of them. So, you know, it kind of sucks, but we humans find that funny.
We do. It's an interesting thing about us, right? No matter, we can't help it, we laugh at someone else's misfortune. And things that are not aligned with that sentence are not funny.
Yeah.
You know? This internet, I think. Are we back? We're back? Yeah, we're back. We're good. It was getting robotic there for a moment. I think a lot.
I hope so. Yeah, right. Australia, right?
Australia, man. I wish we had time to talk about Australia and why I left and that. So to me,
I mean, I'm happy to. I mean, if you want to get into that, I'm all ears.
only takes 2-3 minutes.
Sure. Why not? 2-3 minutes, and then we can think about wrapping up.
Okay. I did actually make a few Australian specific videos, even though I don't live there anymore. Still love the place. I was born there. But it's sad to see what the country's become. When you used to travel around Europe and Southeast Asia and you tell people you're from Australia, they think, what a great life you have, what a great opportunity you have. And then to see the cost of living crisis now, the median house price being whatever it is, 1.6 million in Sydney, getting to the point where the average young'un coming up without inheritance, you've almost got no chance unless you do something very special. You have a super talent. Yeah, it's no longer enough to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and get ahead. Yeah,
it's a scary thing, right? Growing up as a young Australian in this current climate, housing crisis is it's a tragedy. It really is. The boomers had it good, right, Daniel?
The boomers had it good. This is a segue back into the whole fiat thing. So, and I apologize if I'm talking while you're replying. It's because of our internet connection. So I do apologize if I'm.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Okay. So the entire cost of living crisis thing is such that the boomers kick the can down the road. Okay. So because Australia is set up in a way politically where this government comes in term, they look out for their interests in the short term, 1 year, 4 years. To stay in power, they've got to impress the wider public in the short term. But as you know, if you give a baby all the candy that they want, even though they're happy today, in the future they're going to be unhappy because they're going to be fat and sick. Well, when it comes to an economic model of the country, it's a very good analogy to use, because when you stimulate an economy like they did in COVID and print all this money, that devalues the Australian dollar, and that actually causes asset prices to go up, which the rich can afford, and then the poor can't. So you just get this disparity between the rich and the poor over and over and over again. But the irony is that the poor people think that it's a good thing when they get more money from the government, because in the short term it is, I got these checks, I got these subsidies or whatever it is, but in the long term it hurts them because you're devaluing the currency. And unfortunately, Australia is a very unique model whereby we are not a diverse economy such as the USA, that we rely a lot on these house prices continuing to go up. Okay, so imagine having part of your GDP that is revolved around the thing that everyone needs to live in. Like that just seems off, right? But that's the unfortunate reality. Okay, so it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, the commodification of a necessity. That's a sickening thing.
You say it so much better than me. I really do think that is a perfect way to say it. What did you say? The commodification.
The commodification of a necessity. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I could change one thing, it'd be that. Okay. So Australia, we could go.
We already do it with food, I guess. So it's not a new thing, but yeah, it can be taken to crazy lengths with like price gouging and, like as you put it, the whole GDP growth revolving around a necessity. I think that's a little anyway. But I can't really speak to economics. Clearly, you can. The very least, enough to be dangerous. Yeah.
Think about this though, right? Whether I can or you can't, that's actually the reason I interrupted you is because let's get the nerdiness out of the way. You're an Australian. You don't need to know economics to know that you feel it, right? Like you feel this cost of living crisis, right?
Yeah, I do.
And at the end of the day, that's the important practical information. I don't know what's going on with these politicians, but my life is more expensive today than it was a year ago and 10 years ago before that. That is just an objective thing that you can feel. And so I'm upset that a country with so many resources and honestly, just we were on the path we were about to do it, and then they just went the other way. I'm not going to get into what I think they should or shouldn't do, because it starts to get into ethics, like, you know, renewable energy, etc., like that. But whatever they've done now is not easy for you growing up. And so I moved from Australia quite some time ago. It's known as geo arbitrage. So if you're earning money in Australia, then you import that into a place like Southeast Asia. Imagine how much further that goes, right? I told you about my $2,000 I spent in 8 weeks in Pattaya, Thailand. 2,000 Australian dollars. It's all I needed, and I had actually a great life. It was a simple life, but it went a lot further than Australia, and that kind of opened my eyes up to Southeast Asia, and that's where I found the tattoo industry over there in Bali. So, for me, I guess the Australians coming up, I don't know what the solution is, but I hope it changes soon.
And I really hope that you do a podcast with Tony Huge, whom I believe is currently based in Pattaya, Thailand.
Or Bangkok, I think it was. When I spoke to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think, yep. He's in Bangkok. Yeah. And he's doing all kinds of funny things with that Connor Murphy fellow and Leo and longevity. I don't know if you know any of these happenings. So Connor Murphy, he was this formerly well-regarded by his audience, not so much anymore, fitness influencer, who was known for taking his shirt off, exposing his honestly very good physique to unsuspecting women on the street. And he had a cameraman who would film these interactions, and the whole shtick was, look what happens when you're a muscular guy and you take your shirt off in front of women. And he'd go, you know, can I get your number and all of this stuff. And his videos did very well. He amassed something north of 2 million subscribers.
Jesus.
But he had some kind of what appears to be, or what many claim to be, a kind of mental breakdown. We don't know what precipitated it. Maybe it was a bad trip with ayahuasca or psilocybin mushrooms. But he ends up in Thailand making videos with Tony Huge, and that's kind of where he's at now. And he was implicated in this weird incident where I don't know if he was stabbed or something, but there was police involvement in something he did or was subjected to. Anyway, the whole story is crazy. I'm not so up to date on it, but lots of interesting stuff goes on in Tony Huge's orbit. Lots of interesting stuff.
If I don't know about Tony Huge, but living in Pattaya, I mean, bro, the amount of things that would happen there on a daily basis. I mean, that's just how it was back then. But this is 2011, so 11, 12. It's probably changed now. But when I spoke to Tony Huge, I got intro to him via Broderick on WhatsApp. We were supposed to do a podcast, but because of the time zone and I'm lazy, we didn't get around to it. But from what I used to see of Tony Huge, this is years ago, by the way, it was just like reviews of steroids and SARMs. So I wanted to do a podcast on these SARMs because I was very anti-SARM at the time for building muscle, because a lot of my friends had used them and didn't get anywhere near the results of anabolic steroids, but more of the side effects. So that was the conversation I wanted to have with him. When it comes to these guys and their social or personal life, those have never been my areas of interest. It's usually I do these deep dives. So with Broderick, I do a deep dive on Trenbolone and everything that we can get out of it. It's kind of that Andrew Huberman format. Again, I don't think in the future I'm gonna have those conversations where I talk about people's social life as much. It's more deep dives on drugs.
Yeah, good on you. And you should definitely keep doing that. I would really rather that you didn't stop making videos. Because I do really enjoy those podcasts that you do. And that's how I even found out about you in the first place. It was a damn podcast, the ones you did with Lyle, So, and I meant what I said. I thought those were great podcasts, and you're a great interviewer.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I guess
you're real personable. You're easy to talk to. I can see why your podcast has been doing well.
Thank you, bro. You too. You too, by the way. It's
Thank
been
you.
great. I guess take-home message is I'll get back to what I think I'm better at, which is interviewing other people. And yeah, that's about it. I got one coming up with Dr. Andrew Wingy. We talk about ApoB and cardiovascular disease. It's one of the things on the forefront of my mind to resolve because it's the leading killer of men, on gear or not. It's heart disease. So that's the thing I'm trying to nip in the butt as soon as possible. And the only thing that I have based on diagnostics that I'm not happy with is ApoB and LDL. And unfortunately, no matter what dietary thing you try, it doesn't seem to be able to reduce ApoB to the point where the risk is reduced enough that you'd be satisfied with, which is why I
take your point. Have you considered statins?
So we've done a few podcasts on them. The reason I'm not taking them right now, and I wouldn't start with a statin, it would be a PCSK9 inhibitor and ezetimibe, because statins, although they're a lot cheaper, they tend to come with the greater chance of getting side effects you really don't want, namely insulin resistance and then the muscle soreness, and then even reports of brain fog or mental side effects. And I'll be honest, they seem common enough for me to avoid them. I've got the box, all right, in my drawer somewhere. I forgot what statin it is, and I just can't bring myself to use it. You know what I'm saying?
I totally do. I have some weird and probably irrational things about medication. Like if I have a pounding headache, let's just say, then I won't take. I mean, it could be some weird, like, toxic masculinity, like male toughness thing, where I'm like, nope, just gotta tough it out. But yeah, I just won't take a medicine unless I really have to. You know,
I'm the same as you, by the way. I think exactly like you, which is why I've probably done myself a disservice. But we don't know, because when it comes to medications, there are so many unknown unknowns. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yes.
Unknown unknowns?
Yeah.
And I guess every time you take a medication or every time you change your diet or take a supplement, there's a risk, but there seems to be a greater risk with pharma there than changing your diet. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm actually someone who thrived really well on the carnivore diet, but it wasn't sustainable for me because I love eating fruit. And I love and having coffee.
I could really go for some fruit right now. I'd love a mango or a nectarine or something. I'm in the mood for something a little juicy and meaty. You know, those relatively meaty fruits. That's what I feel like, right? Or grapes. What the hell? I think I'm dehydrated. I think that's why I'm thinking about these like juicy fruits. You know, I gotta drink some damn water. Yeah,
me too.
But I don't have any here, so.
Either I left my bottle over there, but we can wrap it up there if you want, bro. I mean, I'm happy to continue and get a drink, but if you want to wrap it up, we'll wrap it up.
It is getting pretty done late here, and you know, I got to wind down.
Yep.
It has been a pleasure, though, Daniel. I really did enjoy talking to you, and I think this podcast is going to clear up a lot and just expose a really nice side of you.
Thank you, man. And same to you. I had the sense that you're a good dude anyway, all right, just from what I'd seen about you. But it's been even further eye-opening. The way you elucidate concepts, I quite particularly like as well. You take what I'm saying and you put it in a better way.
Thank you. That means a hell of a lot.
You're welcome, bro. All right.
Yeah. We'll talk soon. No doubt.
Yep. Sweet.
Take care, Daniel. Thanks for joining me.
So, you're welcome, man. Ciao.
Ciao.